Chapter 39-51. Dragon Valley. Roar. Almost at the same time, the dragon god that had been smashed to the ground earlier rushed up again. It glared fiercely at Lin Ling, but it did not act rashly. Boom! However, just as it got up, Lin Ling stomped down again, landing on the dragon god's head and stomping it back to the ground. All the dragon gods sucked in a breath of cold air. Was this kid crazy? One had to know that when ordinary people saw the dragon race, they would only be respectful and reverent. However, this kid was good. He was beating them up like crazy, as if he did not put the dragon god in his eyes at all. Little friend, we were wrong before. We did not investigate everything and wronged you. Don't worry, your little girlfriend is fine. At this moment, the ancient voice in the sky sounded again. The voice also made the beaten dragon god not dare to flare up. At this moment, Lin Ling had already arrived beside Anuer. Only then did he realize that Anuer had been imprisoned by a powerful force. This made him look at the sky with red eyes, get lost. All the dragon gods sucked in a breath of cold air. Not only did this guy beat up the dragon gods, he even dared to scold the dragon emperor. Hee, alright, it's my fault. The ancient voice in the sky carried a bitter smile, come to the Dragon Valley. After Lin Ling's anger, he realized that Anuer was fine after all. Only then did he vent his anger and say, lead the way. All the dragon gods were helpless, but they also knew that the dragon emperor was very easy to talk to this human, so they did not dare to do anything to Lin Ling. Come on up. The leader of the dragon gods also let out a bitter laugh. Humph. Unfortunately, Lin Ling ignored it and flew towards another dragon god with Anuer. After landing on the dragon god, he said indifferently, let's go. And this arrogant appearance made all the dragon gods shake their heads. They obviously didn't expect this tiny human to be so arrogant. Unfortunately, what they didn't know was that Lin Ling had been extremely worried about Anuer. In addition, he had helped the dragon clan seal the seal and even came from afar to deliver the message. Not only did the dragon clan not thank him, they even almost wanted to kill him. If it was anyone else, their mood wouldn't be any better. Countless dragon gods soared in the sky at an incomparably fast speed. Standing on the dragon gods, Lin Ling could also see the entire continent. At this moment, the anger in his heart finally subsided a little. He looked at the ancient land and felt a little heroic. The dragon race was one of the most mysterious and ancient races in the universe. Today, not only did he see it, he even stepped on the dragon god and roamed the sky. If this matter were to spread back to the Snow Wind Academy, it would make countless people jealous. Moreover, Lin Ling found that these dragon gods were exactly the same as the dragons he knew when he was a child. They had snake body, lizard legs, eagle claws, snake tail, antlers, fish scales, whiskers at the corners of their mouths, and pearls under their foreheads. He never dreamed that the mythical stories he heard when he was a child were actually true. At least, he was really standing on a dragon god. Dragon Pearl. Then, Lin Ling looked not far away and found that the flying dragons were all holding mysterious pearls in their claws. Some were holding 2 pearls, and some were holding 1. However, compared to the dragon pearls Lin Ling had seen before, these were hundreds of times larger. Moreover, all the dragon gods had dragon pearls. This made Lin Ling think of the dragons he saw outside. Not many of them had dragon pearls. We're here. A moment later, the dragon god under his feet spat out human words. Looking around, an incomparably vast valley appeared in front of him. The valley was colorful and filled with divine aura. Looking from the sky, one could find that the valley was filled with birds and flowers, as if it was a paradise. Moreover, on the ground, many dragon gods were hovering there, swallowing the clouds and riding the mist. It was extremely magical. Moreover, those countless dragon gods also noticed the arrival of Lin Ling in the sky and revealed a curious expression. Looking from afar, countless dragon gods looked up. The scene was incomparably spectacular, as if 10,000 dragons were roaring. Even Lin Ling was shocked. In his life, this was the first time he had encountered so many dragon gods. Moreover, if these dragon gods went to the final world, what 10 great martial gods of the 9 regions, they were simply farts. Just as he was lost in thought, the dragon gods beneath his feet had already landed on the ground. Meanwhile, Lin Ling, who was holding in Yu-Er's hand, also floated down. Only now did he realize that the Dragon Valley was even grander than he had imagined. Its massive entrance was even wider than any city gate. However, at this moment, Lin Ling suddenly noticed that the dragon pearls on his body were jumping. It was those dragon demons. The dragon demons seemed to be very excited because they had arrived at the home of the dragons. Although most of these dragon demons were human and had been transformed by the ghost dragon god using evil techniques, it was undeniable that they more or less had the bloodline of a dragon in their bodies. Therefore, they more or less had a sense of belonging to the dragon race. Come out. Lin Ling immediately released all the dragon demons. After those tall dragon demons appeared, they immediately knelt down to the Dragon Valley. Looking at the dragon gods around Lin Ling, they were used to it and were full of arrogance. This was because they had long been used to this scene. They also knew that in the universe, there were many dragons with impure bloodlines. Therefore, in front of these dragons with impure bloodlines, they were naturally superior. Of course, this kind of arrogance was obviously useless against Lin Ling. Moreover, in the hearts of all the dragon gods, Lin Ling was an anomaly. Go in. The leader of the dragon gods couldn't be arrogant in front of Lin Ling and said kindly. Lin Ling immediately nodded and entered while holding Yuer's hand. However, the dragon demons were not allowed to enter the Dragon Valley and could only kneel outside the valley. This obviously made Lin Ling a little unhappy, but he also realized that even if they could enter, those dragon demons wouldn't dare to. This was why he didn't flare up in the end. The dragon cleansing pool is very suitable for them. At this moment, the leader of the dragon gods said faintly. The so-called dragon cleansing pool was the place where the dragon gods bathed. Although it didn't sound like much, to the dragon demons, it was a place where they were reborn. If they could be contaminated with more dragon chi, they could also transform again. Dragons also have 3 horns and 9 ranks. The dragon that crosses the dragon cleansing pool is also a dragon, but not a dragon god. Those who have dragon blood are also dragons, but not dragon gods. The true dragon gods have the purest bloodline passed down from generation to generation. Even the Dragon Valley has strict orders that the dragon gods are not allowed to marry outsiders. This is to preserve the bloodline of the dragon gods. The leader of the dragon gods led Lin Ling in. After entering, Lin Ling realized that the spiritual energy in the valley was extremely rich, causing the huge vortex in his dantian to spin wildly. This was the effect of the demigod divine pill. Let's go see the Dragon Emperor. Then, the dragon god said to Lin Ling nodded and walked along the Dragon Valley. Wherever they passed, Lin Ling could also see a large number of dragon gods looking at them, making Lin Ling feel like he had come to a land of giants. How magical! Chapter 3952. To meet the Dragon Emperor. The main road of the Dragon Valley was also very wide. Lin Ling and Yi Shiwen looked around as they walked. Not long after, a cave appeared in front of them. What surprised Lin Ling was that the cave was not big. Instead, it looked more like a cultivation cave for martial artists. Pacing back and forth outside the cave, Lin Ling pondered whether or not he should enter. Little friend, come in. However, at this moment, a kind voice came from the cave. Lin Ling and Yuer looked at each other, then strode into the cave. Inside the cave, there was an ancient fragrance, and there were many calligraphy in paintings hanging from the walls. It was extremely elegant. An old man wearing a loose robe, holding a brush in his hand, was writing something in front of a desk. "This is the Dragon Emperor." Seeing this, Lin Ling and Inuer were both shocked. Because no matter how one looked at him, the Dragon Emperor looked like a very ordinary old man. "Hee, although our dragon clan is blessed by the heavens, we can't compare to you humans when it comes to being refined and refined." At this time, the old man slowly turned around. He had a slender beard, pure white and flawless, and his eyebrows were extremely long. He looked extremely amiable, and Lin Ling had a strange thought. He really wanted to pull out those beards, because those seemed to be precious dragon beards. Of course, this was just a thought. Other than his beard and eyebrows, the other aspects of this old man were ordinary. If there was anything special about him, it would be his eyes. This was because the old man's eyes were half closed, as if he was still sleeping. "Thank you for helping us seal the will of the world." The old man looked at Lin Ling and said with a smile, "Previously, our dragon cave was disturbed by someone, so our eyes all fell on the dragon cave. Who knew that this was the cunning method of the world will? It used a diversion method to attract all the dragon gods to the dragon cave, and the so-called dragon cave is the place where the past dragon gods fell. There are a large number of dragon corpses there. Our attention was attracted, and the will of the world attempted to break the seal, but in the end, it was interrupted by you by a stroke of luck. It's nothing." Hearing this, Lin Ling roughly guessed what was going on and smiled. "This is a great contribution because our dragon clan has been suppressing the seal here for a long time. If we let the seal escape, then we will have failed to live up to the trust of others." The old man smiled kindly. Lin Ling's eyes flashed. Entrust? Could it be that such a powerful dragon had been entrusted to someone else? As if sensing Lin Ling's curiosity, the old man smiled and said, "Boy, Huanyu is much more complicated than you think. Although our dragon god is powerful, there are people above us who are even more powerful than us." Lin Ling sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard that. Could it be that those powerful people were superior gods? "Well, you have helped our dragon clan, and we will not treat you unfairly. We will reward you with a dragon god battle armor." This battle armor was made by the 28th generation Dragon Emperor. It took him 9,999 years to collect divine iron and dragon scales from outside Huanyu to make it. Its greatest function is to heal injuries. The old man continued. As he spoke, he flipped his hands and held a set of azure blue battle armor. The surface of this battle armor was covered with dragon scales and was extremely exquisite. Lin Ling was delighted. Battle armor made by the Dragon Emperor? Be careful, this battle armor has a dragon's soul, but it can't take a beating. The old man said again. Hearing this, Lin Ling's pupils constricted. Wasn't the battle armor used for defense? Why couldn't it take a beating? Seeing Lin Ling's strange look, the old man couldn't help but laugh. That half-asleep look seemed to have woken up a little. This set of battle armor is used for healing, but this kind of healing is targeted at the dragon god. If a human wears it, it won't be healing, but it will continue to improve your dragon god bloodline. In other words, it will improve your dragon god talent and eventually become a dragon god. As for why it is like this? Because when our dragon god is injured, its dragon chi will be greatly reduced, and it needs the battle armor to strengthen its foundation. This kind of strengthening foundation and strengthening of the foundation for humans is to improve their dragon chi, dragon blood, and from another point of view, it is to improve their talent. In addition, this battle armor is very heavy and has the power of 100,000 worlds. Hearing this, Lin Ling's mouth opened wide. Currently, he only has the power of 30,000 worlds. Not to mention the other aspects of this battle armor, just its weight alone can crush him to death. But don't worry, in its initial state, the dragon god battle armor has the power of 10,000 worlds. It will slowly increase the power of the world as the owner's strength increases. This process is actually to improve your physical strength. The old man laughed, making Lin Ling come to a realization. Alright, I'll put it on for you first. Then, the old man raised his hands and a large number of dragon talismans appeared. They were sparkling and resplendent and landed on the battle armor, and the battle armor immediately opened up. Looking carefully, how is this battle armor? It is simply a huge dragon skin. However, after the dragon talismans floated over, the dragon skin began to change and wrapped Lin Ling. Then, a set of azure majestic armor appeared on Lin Ling's body. This armor is covered in dragon light, and the crown is made of phoenix feathers, causing Lin Ling's entire temperament to change, as if he is a dragon general. So beautiful. At the side, Yuer's beautiful eyes couldn't help but light up. The current Lin Ling is indeed much more impressive. She reckons that when Lin Ling shows this Shenwei battle armor in the final world, many women will be moved. Not bad, this battle armor is very comfortable. Lin Ling stroked the battle armor and nodded in satisfaction. This is just the beginning. But at this time, the old man said with a smile. He controlled the dragon talismans and landed them on Lin Ling's battle armor. A huge dragon talisman appeared on his legs, arms, and crown in all 5 directions before disappearing into it. Bang! The ground where Lin Ling is standing on instantly sank by a lot, and Lin Ling also felt as if he is carrying 10,000 worlds. Initial strength, the strength of 10,000 worlds. This battle armor. Lin Ling's face changed immediately. Don't remove the dragon talismans so easily. Although the moment you remove them, your strength will instantly increase, but you will have to start from the beginning again. This is because the dragon god battle armor's strength is slowly increasing. If it is interrupted, it will naturally return to its original state. The old man hurriedly said. Lin Ling smiled bitterly. Could it be that he will have to carry this set of battle armor all the time? But then he realized that the double dragon god talent in his body was slowly increasing. Moreover, his physical strength was also slowly increasing under the stimulation of external objects. Most importantly, this kind of increase has no side effects because the battle armor is also constantly repairing Lin Ling's injured body. This battle armor is precious. How is it? Seeing that Lin Ling is sensing the dragon god battle armor, the old man suddenly asked. Senior, this battle armor is indeed not used for battle, but it is also used to assist in cultivation. Now, I feel very good. Lin Ling gritted his teeth and said. After all, the weight on his body is too huge, but he believes that it won't be long before he gets used to it. That's good. Chapter 3953. Leave. Lin Ling didn't expect the Dragon Emperor to have guessed it. He immediately took out the letter that Lei Gong had given him and handed it to the Dragon Emperor. Seeing the Dragon Emperor accept it with both hands, Lin Ling immediately felt relieved because he had finally completed the last mission in Kaiyuan River. This also meant that the second mission of the Trial of God had been completed. Of course, at this point, he knew how difficult the Trial of God was. No wonder so many people wanted to become trial takers, but each god only had 10 trial takers. Then, Lin Ling saw the Dragon Emperor frowning as he read the letter in his hand. He didn't want to disturb him, so he left the cave with Yuer. Outside the cave, there were still birds chirping and flowers fragrant. Warm sunlight shone down from the sky. It was unknown whether it was the sunlight from Huanyu or the sunlight from the Kaiyuan River. Bang! However, it was extremely difficult for Lin Ling to walk. Every step left a footprint, and he was drenched in sweat. Lin Ling, do you need my help? Yuer naturally knew that this was the effect of the dragon god battle armor. No need, I can hold on. Lin Ling gritted his teeth and smiled, nodding resolutely. Seeing Lin Ling being so stubborn, Yuer shook her head helplessly. However, she also knew Lin Ling's character. Once he decided on something, even 9 bulls couldn't pull him back. Therefore, she didn't stop Lin Ling. "Let's go and find a place to sit." Lin Ling, on the other hand, wore his battle armor and walked forward step by step. However, looking at his appearance, it was extremely comical. He couldn't even walk steadily, like a child who had just learned to walk. Roar, roar, roar. There were many dragon gods not far away, and when they saw this scene, they could not help but let out strange laughter. "So noisy, it's none of your business." Seeing those dragon gods, Lin Ling cursed angrily, but in exchange, there were even more laughter. And Yuer, on the other hand, curled her lips. She reckoned that among humans, Lin Ling was probably the only one who dared to scold the dragon gods like this. Bang! Finally, under a huge ancient tree, Lin Ling couldn't take it anymore and sat down weakly. Then, he looked at the majestic battle armor and thought of those dragon gods who were laughing at him. So, he gritted his teeth, took out another blue robe, and covered the surface of the battle armor. This blue robe was clearly not an ordinary item. It was bought from God's shop and had the power to block one's aura. Under the cover of the robe, Lin Ling also returned to his former appearance. At least he didn't have to be a thorn in the side of others. After resting like this for a long time, when Lin Ling felt that he was gradually adapting, the Dragon Emperor came again. He looked at Lin Ling with a smile and said, "Congratulations, you've helped the dragon race seal the world's will, so Lei Gong has decided that you've become a 3-star trial taker. You only need to complete one more mission, then you can step into 4-star. That's great." Hearing this, Lin Ling was delighted. This was because only he knew how difficult the trial missions were. Some trial takers even spent thousands of years to complete a mission, and they might not succeed. Lin Ling, on the other hand, had completed 2 missions at the same time. This also meant that Lin Ling could make 2 requests of the old woman when he returned. Also, your Lei Gong wants you to return as soon as possible. The old man said again. Okay. Lin Ling nodded and stood up. He looked into the distance because this trip to the Kaiyuan River had taken up a lot of his time. Calculating the time, the 3-year promise was coming soon. During this period of time, Lin Ling's strength had also increased greatly. Perhaps only he knew the bitterness in his heart. Long Yang had Wentian martial god special training, while Lin Ling could only rely on himself. However, Lin Ling was confident that everything he had received was not much worse than Long Yang. I've sent the letter, found my wife, and my brothers are safe and sound. It's time to leave. At this moment, Lin Ling realized that the dragon god's armor on his body seemed to have become much lighter. It's not easy for you to come all the way here. However, you've gained as much as you've sacrificed. The old man said with a smile as he looked at Lin Ling. Through his conversation with Lei Gong, he knew what kind of person this kid in front of him was. He also thought highly of Lin Ling. Then, Senior, I'll take my leave. Lin Ling bowed slightly to the Dragon Emperor. He held an Yuer's hand and walked along the main road of the Dragon Valley with large strides. However, this time, he did not walk in a wretched manner. Instead, he walked with confidence and composure. The old man looked at the spirited young man and nodded. He said calmly, "Send him back." When the order was given, the surrounding dragon gods immediately let out a low roar. Lin Ling arrived outside the Dragon Valley and took the Platinum Evil Spirit and the giant ghost away. Then, he went to check on the dragon demons. In a huge ancient pool filled with mist, a large number of huge figures were faintly discernible in the mist. They were also letting out deafening dragon roars. When Lin Ling approached, he was surprised to find that the dragon demon's strength had greatly increased. Many of the dragon demons had broken through to the martial god realm. Their bloodlines had also become pure. Furthermore, they no longer looked like dragon demons. At least a portion of them had regained their human appearance. My lord. After seeing Lin Ling, the dragon demons said gratefully. They knew that if it were not for Lin Ling, they would never have been able to come to the Dragon Valley in their entire lives. They were very grateful to Lin Ling for this. Everyone, your strength has increased greatly. Do you plan to leave or continue to follow me? Lin Ling was happy for these dragon demons. Of course we're following you, my lord. Because in Milord's Dragon Ball, there is also our home. One of the dragon demons laughed. Lin Ling suddenly remembered that the dragon pearl seemed to lead to another world. It was no wonder that these dragon demons were not bored in it. Then, Lin Ling put them back into the dragon pearl and planned to leave. However, at this moment, a dragon god flew over and told Lin Ling that it was under the Dragon Emperor's orders to send Lin Ling out of the Kaiyuan River. Lin Ling naturally would not refuse. He leaped onto the dragon god with an yuer and the dragon god flew into the sky. This time, it did not fly in the direction of the ocean of death, but toward the sky. Don't tell me this guy wants to fly over the Kaiyuan River. Lin Ling immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. His evaluation of the dragon god in his heart involuntarily went up a notch. Rumble. The sound of water was everywhere as the dragon god rushed into the Kaiyuan River. However, Lin Ling and Yuer, who were above the dragon god, did not feel any pressure. Instead, they enjoyed the beautiful scenery around them. To humans, they could be considered as one of the few people who could fly over the Kaiyuan River. Read Bodhi Scripture Celestial Venerable Shu, 6 Paths of Myriad Wind and Cloud Manipulation. Lin Ling appreciated it for a moment, then began to cultivate. What he cultivated was the Bodhi Testimony Divine Technique. When Lin Ling cultivated this divine technique, he could see the wind and clouds roiling in the sky. The wind and clouds were flowing, but they carried with them an extremely mysterious melody. Lin Ling was like a gust of wind, a cloud, moving with the wind and clouds, flowing through the 9 provinces and arriving at the era of the gods. Chapter 3954. The Legend of the Dragon God. Finally, when he reached the stage of fullness, the soul force in his mind began to hurt. This made Lin Ling realize that he had to let it go. If he continued to cultivate, he would not be able to achieve anything. Looking at his soul force again, it had reached 23,500. This speed of improvement could be said to be terrifying. Huan Yu, we're almost there. Yes. At this moment, the dragon god also made a sound, which made Lin Ling's mind jolt. Then, he looked at the Kaiyuan River reluctantly. Through the rolling river, he seemed to see the demonic forest under the river, the Guyuan mountain range, and the ancient dragon wasteland. He believed that even after thousands of years, the legend of Lin Ling would still be passed down there. The void of Huan Yu was quiet and distant. In the distance, the stars were bright, like eyes looking at the whole world. Whoosh! However, in this dark void, there was a huge river rolling. From afar, it looked like the Milky Way. If one looked closer, the river was magnificent, as if it could drown anything in the universe. And this river seemed to have no end, dividing the dark void. It was extremely magical. Looking at the side of the rolling river, pieces of broken continents were scattered there. If one got closer, one could even see martial artists passing through the continents, and those continents were the banks of the river. As for that Milky Way, it was the Kaiyuan River. The Kaiyuan River, one of the 7 forbidden lands of the 9 states. Legend has it that this is another universe, but it hasn't taken shape yet. However, the battles inside are extremely fierce, and only gods can enter. In the distance of the Kaiyuan River, an old man with a large number of young people was floating there, and his eyes were dignified as he spoke. This time, I'm only taking you to see the Kaiyuan River from afar. When you've mastered your skills in the future, you can try to explore by yourself. Remember, the road is under your feet. Walk more, then you can see further, but you have to do everything according to your ability. The old man exhorted again. Grandmaster Lien, this Kaiyuan River is so big. Where do those powerful warriors wander around? A young man asked curiously. Under the river. The old man smiled and suddenly pointed at the Kaiyuan River. Wow! Everyone cried out in surprise. They never thought that the Kaiyuan River would be under the Great River. Your teacher, I, was quite lucky back then. I had once roamed that place with experts. There were Demon Yuan Forest, Ancient Yuan Mountain Range, and even Ancient Dragon Desolate Land. After that, the old man looked at the young men with a proud expression. The eyes of the young men all flashed as they listened with anticipation. They were here to observe the Kaiyuan River, but that didn't stop them from yearning for it. In the future, they would definitely enter this magical place. Master Lien, you're amazing. A young girl suddenly said with adoration. This young girl was very good-looking, pure and cute. After she spoke, the surrounding youths more or less stared at her with a strange light in their eyes. You flatter me. Although I've been to those places, I've been with the Alliance. It's impossible for me to go there alone. Of course, I haven't been to the entire Kaiyuan River. After all, there are rumors that at the end of the Kaiyuan River, there's an endless Dead Sea. There are countless terrifying monsters there. If you cross the Dead Sea, you'll reach the other side of the Kaiyuan River. As the old man spoke, a look of nostalgia appeared in his eyes as he recalled the battles of the past. The other side of the Kaiyuan River? What's that? Everyone held their breaths and became even more curious. The old man smiled mysteriously. According to the rumors, there's an ancient continent on the other side, and that's also the hometown of the Dragon Clan. Boom! As soon as he said that, there was no doubt that the hearts of these hot-blooded young men exploded. The Dragon Clan. They had heard of this legend before. It was said that the Dragon Clan was the noblest of all. They were left behind during the era of the gods, and all the dragons in the 9 states were their descendants. I wonder what the legendary dragon god looks like. The cute young girl who spoke before said with a yearning look. Hee, so far, I haven't heard of anyone reaching the other side of the Kaiyuan River. As for the Dragon Clan, just think about it, because no human is qualified to meet the dragon god. The old man was very satisfied with the expressions of the young men, because curiosity was one of the factors that motivated a warrior to become stronger. Perhaps in the future, these little guys would continue to become stronger because they wanted to meet the dragon god. Of course, he also knew that this was just wishful thinking. The Dragon Clan wasn't that easy to meet. Master Lien, has no one ever seen the dragon god? The young girl from before asked again. Of course, unless it's a god. Due to the pride of the Dragon Clan, they disdain to appear in front of humans. The old man nodded slightly. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the Kaiyuan River in front of them exploded. The turbulent river water turned into a huge whirlpool and rushed into the void. From afar, it looked like a dragon sucking in water. Then, under the Kaiyuan River, a huge figure rushed out. It was huge and winding, and it was majestic. It was a dragon god. Everyone was tongue-tied. They pointed forward and couldn't say a word. The old man even pulled out a few strands of his beard because he was also shocked. What a mighty dragon god! This is a real dragon. Its aura is so strong. Look, there's someone above the dragon god. Mu Wan, are you kidding? The Dragon Clan is the most arrogant. How can there be someone above the dragon god? The young men's voices were trembling, and their eyes were full of worship. I'm not lying. Look. The cute young girl from before said stubbornly. Her little hand was also pointing into the distance. However, this time, even Master Lien shook his head. He thought to himself, is this little girl Mu Wan scared out of her wits? He wanted to persuade Mu Wan to calm down and not be frightened by the dragon god's aura. However, before he could say anything, Master Lien's eyes also trembled. That was because the huge dragon god in front of them stopped flying. Then, two figures floated down. It was a man and a woman. The woman was as beautiful as a fairy and breathtaking. The man was dressed in a blue robe and was handsome and otherworldly. So beautiful. Looking at the immortal couple, all the young men's hearts trembled. Master Lien pulled out a few strands of his beard. Then, he was even more excited than the young men. Damn it! Who said that the dragon god was arrogant? Now, it was being ridden by someone. Thank you. I'll visit your Dragon Valley when I'm free. At this time, the young man in the blue robe in front of them said with a smile. All right, go ahead. Our Dragon Valley will always welcome you. Now that I've sent you here, I can complete my mission perfectly. Goodbye. The mighty dragon god spoke in human language. He circled around the void and finally rushed into the Kaiyuan River, stirring up the river water and causing it to shoot up into the sky. As for the couple, they too flew into the distance and gradually disappeared into the void. Isn't the dragon god the most arrogant? I think it's easy to talk to him. Chapter 39:55. They had arrived at Qingzhou. Today's trip was not in vain. When I go back, I can also brag to others. After the two of them left, all the youths started to laugh in high spirits. Master Lien, what's wrong? However, the girl named Mu Wan was observant and noticed that there was something wrong with the old man beside her. With this shout, everyone looked at the highly respected and knowledgeable Master Lien. Then, they realized that this senior's mouth was agape and he was frozen in place. Master Lien. Someone hurriedly flew over. After a moment of investigation, he said in shock, Master, he fainted from fright. Ah! Everyone was petrified. Was this still the knowledgeable Master Lien? It was just a dragon god. Although it was very surprising, it was not to the extent of fainting from fright. How could they know that in the millions of years of history of the 9 regions, no one had ever seen the dragon god, let alone someone riding the dragon god? Therefore, to Master Lien, today's scene was no different from an old sow climbing a tree. Even a salted fish could turn over a new leaf. At this moment, on the other side of the universe, Lin Ling held An Yuer's hand and strode forward. Ha ha. At this moment, Lin Ling was undoubtedly very happy. He laughed as he walked. Why are you smiling so happily? By the way, when we came out earlier, it seems like many people saw us from afar. An Yuer rolled her eyes and said. Who cares? Lin Ling didn't care. Then, he looked at An Yuer with a smile and said, most importantly, I brought my wife back. Ha ha ha. An Yuer was shocked. She didn't expect the usually calm Lin Ling to be laughing so foolishly because of her. She was instantly moved and held Lin Ling's hand even tighter. I can have my wedding night. However, Lin Ling's next sentence also made An Yuer curse. So this guy was happy because of this. She flung Lin Ling's hand away, picked up her skirt, and left first. You're always thinking about that. She left behind a sentence with a hint of displeasure. However, Lin Ling did not care at all. Instead, he looked at An Yuer's long legs that were occasionally exposed under her long dress. Her skin was as smooth as jade. If he touched it, it would feel really good. Sister Yuer, sister. Lin Ling's gaze was still fixated on the scenery by An Yuer's skirt. He quickly chased after her. Let's go to Qingzhou first. Grandfather and mother have been worried about you for a long time. Let's go and tell them that you're safe. He Xiu is Wu Xiu. Xiu. It had Xiu. An Yuer nodded when she thought of Patriarch Taiyan and Auntie Mo Nianchen. Then let's speed up. Watch me. Lin Ling caught up with An Yuer and waved his right hand. A ray of light flew out from his sleeve and turned into a palm-sized wooden gourd in front of Lin Ling. "What's this?" And Yuer's curiosity was piqued. "Hee, I bought all the treasures in the shop of gods. This is the flying flower gourd. It's very fast. It only takes 2 hours to reach Qingzhou from here." Lin Ling said as if he was presenting a treasure. "It's that powerful?" And Yuer's eyes flickered with curiosity. Lin Ling didn't explain. He held in Yuer's hand and jumped down. The gourd suddenly became as big as a boat. Lin Ling carried in Yuer and sat in the gourd. Then, the gourd's butt faced forward while its mouth faced backward. A large number of flower petals sprayed out from the mouth of the gourd. Whoosh! Under the urging of the flower petals, the gourd flew into the distance like a meteor. Behind the gourd were 2 evil spirits, one big and one small. At this moment, they were cursing Lin Ling for not being a brother and leaving them behind. Looking back, the sky was filled with flowers. It was extremely beautiful. "Is it beautiful?" Lin Ling chuckled on the gourd. "Beautiful." And Yuer nodded heavily. Then, she realized that Lin Ling's hand had landed on her thigh. This made her instantly understand why this fellow had gotten a gourd-shaped mount. It turned out that he wanted to take advantage of her. After all, if he had gotten a palace-like mount, Lin Ling wouldn't be able to stick so close to her. "You're too dirty." Thinking of this, Yuer curled her lips. However, her words made Lin Ling smile. Not only did his hands not stop, but he also slowly explored her smooth, jade-like thighs. If someone was here at this moment, they would definitely be extremely shocked. Because in the eyes of outsiders, Lin Ling was cold and handsome, but now he was laughing non-stop. And Yuer was even more exaggerated. She could be called an ice beauty. However, in front of Lin Ling, she was like an ordinary girl. Even she was more talkative. Perhaps, they would only show that kind of innocence in front of each other. 2 hours later, Qingzhou appeared in front of them. This ancient continent was full of vitality. In the sky, there were figures passing through from time to time. It seemed that they were not weak. Lin Ling and Yuer stopped in the sky and looked down. Lin Ling, in particular, had a nostalgic look in his eyes. This was because he hadn't been back for many years. More importantly, this was the first divine prefecture that he had ventured into after coming to the martial god realm. "I wonder if Grandpa and the others are doing well." And Yuer suddenly said to Yu. "Don't worry. I've already asked people to protect this place. Unless those guys don't want to live, they definitely won't dare to disturb this place." Lin Ling said with a smile. He brought in Yuer and rushed towards Qingzhou. Lin Ling was naturally not worried about Qingzhou. This was because Lei Gong had promised him to protect Qingzhou. After reaching the ground, Lin Ling looked into the distance. It was as if the entire Qingzhou was in his eyes. The martial god barracks, the great Azure Divine Dynasty, the 5-ring city, the 3 great academies, and so on all had Lin Ling's memories. Something's not right. Suddenly, Lin Ling frowned. This was because he heard some strange sounds with his ear of chaos. Moreover, he also sensed a different aura with his soul power. He was naturally very familiar with that aura. It was the Gu King from the place of eternal rest. That guy had actually escaped the Dragon Corpse's pursuit. The Dragon Emperor must have suddenly recalled the Dragon Corpse. That was why he was lucky enough to survive. However, Lin Ling did not expect that the first place that guy came to after escaping was Qingzhou. Although Lin Ling did not know why the old man was here, he knew that he was definitely not here as a guest. This old man is really stubborn. He didn't dare to come openly, but he actually secretly attacked. Lin Ling's eyes turned cold. Because the Gu King was good at secretly attacking people, even though Lei Gong had asked people to guard this place, they did not notice anything strange in the short term. "Follow me." Chapter 3956. Third Princess's Disciple. Next, Lin Ling led an Yuer forward towards the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. Along the way, Lin Ling had been secretly investigating. Moreover, the Gu King was extremely powerful, so Lin Ling did not even dare to release the evil ghost jellyfish. However, Lin Ling's soul force had been greatly improved. Relying on his soul force, he was able to find out the truth. Moreover, a bronze mirror appeared in Lin Ling's hand. This was the Guangyang mirror. As long as one's soul force entered it, everything that one's soul force detected would be reflected in the mirror. This mirror was naturally a divine artifact bought from God's shop. He saw an old man sitting cross-legged in a dark room. His face was pale, and he would occasionally let out some crazy cries. Moreover, every time he cried out, it seemed as if he was venting something, and he would continuously vomit blood. This old ghost is injured, and his injuries are not light. Lin Ling's eyes instantly lit up. An Yuer also leaned over to the side. After seeing the scene in the mirror, she couldn't help but laugh. Lin Ling roughly looked for a while and immediately put away the mirror. Then, he said to an Yuer, "Senior sister Yuer, you're too beautiful. When we enter the city, I'm afraid there will be a sensation." "That's easy." Hearing this, an Yuer smiled and took out a veil to cover her beautiful face. Although she was still a devastatingly beautiful woman, she was no longer as stunning as before. "That's great." Lin Ling nodded in satisfaction. Holding an Yuer's hand, he was about to quicken his pace. "Big brother, wait." However, right at that moment, a shout suddenly sounded from afar. Then, a young man flew over. This person's strength was ordinary. Originally, Lin Ling didn't want to pay attention to him. However, he saw that the other party was wearing a set of armor, and that armor was from the Martial God Battalion. Martial God Battalion? Speaking of which, he, Lin Ling, was currently the Grand Marshal of the 6 divisions. "Do you know which way is the Great Azure Divine Dynasty?" After the young man arrived, he smiled and explained, "I just came to the Martial God realm not long ago. This is the first time I'm going to the Great Azure Divine Dynasty, so I'm not familiar with the place." This was the same as Lin Ling in the past. He had also served in the Martial God camp before going to the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. "It just so happens that we are going to the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. Let's go together." Lin Ling immediately smiled and nodded. This young man was from the Martial Gods Battalion, so Lin Ling decided to bring him along. "Thank you, big brother." The young man was overjoyed and hurriedly bowed. However, when he looked at an Yuer, he was clearly shocked. Because although an Yuer was wearing a veil, her temperament was indifferent. He felt that she was definitely a rare beauty. However, he still abided by the rules. He only took a glance and didn't dare to look again. The 3 of them chatted as they walked. Through their conversation, Lin Ling found out that this young man was called Li Hu, and he was indeed from the Martial Gods Battalion. "Big brother, where did you guys come from?" Li Hu was very polite to Lin Ling, "We just came back from the outside." Lin Ling said with a smile. "The outside? Could it be the other divine lands?" "Oh my god, you've left Qingzhou. Qingzhou is so big. I haven't even finished exploring it, but big brother, you went to the other divine lands. How enviable." The young man was undoubtedly shocked, but he comforted himself and said, "Big brother, the outside you're talking about should be the myriad realms." Then, when he saw that Lin Ling didn't say anything, he immediately confirmed his thoughts. "I heard that Qingzhou is the weakest among the 9 prefectures. The other divine lands are the scary ones. I really hope to have the chance to go to the other divine lands in this life." He walked side by side with Lin Ling, but he also talked non-stop like a chatterbox. However, Lin Ling didn't feel disgusted. Instead, he seemed to see himself in the young man, who had anticipation and curiosity about the outside world. After a long time, they finally arrived at Qingzhou. The ancient imperial city stood there like a cauldron, and it was still divided into 5 rings. The imperial city was bustling with noise and excitement. On the surface, the cultivators in Qingzhou were much stronger than before. Those cultivators walked along the street and talked excitedly. They talked about who was more powerful in Qingzhou, how the Azure Emperor was, and so on. When Lin Ling heard that the 3rd princess was still the Azure Emperor and was safe and sound, he was relieved. As for who was more powerful in Qingzhou, he didn't have time to care. With his current strength, only the cultivators of the final world could catch his attention. It's Miss Yunyan. At this moment, the street was suddenly in an uproar. The people around suddenly stretched their necks and looked into the distance. It seemed that their eyes were excited and they were drooling exaggeratedly. This surprised Lin Ling and he looked at those drooling people with disdain. Miss Yunyan. Next to Lin Ling, Li Hu was also shocked. You know her too? Lin Ling frowned. Wasn't this guy's first time in the Great Azure God dynasty? How could he know this so-called Miss Yunyan? I've seen her before, but not in the Great Azure God dynasty. She's in the Martial God barracks because she's the Azure Emperor's disciple. The Azure Emperor has a good relationship with the Martial God barracks, so the Martial God barracks can occasionally see her. Li Hu immediately said. Lin Ling suddenly understood. They're here. At this moment, someone shouted. Then, several figures slowly walked over from the front of the street. The girl in the lead looked to be about 18 or 19 years old. She was indeed very beautiful. She wore a white dress and a white belt that fluttered in the wind, as if she was otherworldly. When they saw Miss Yunyan, the street instantly quieted down. Countless people stared at the girl and even their breath stopped. Lin Ling, on the other hand, shook his head. Although Miss Yunyan was quite pretty, she still paled in comparison to An Yu, who stood beside him. If An Yu removed her veil, everyone's gazes would probably betray Miss Yunyan. Of course, Lin Ling was also looking at Miss Yunyan because she was the 3rd princess disciple. Furthermore, he saw 2 people walking side by side beside Miss Yunyan. These 2 people were not weak. One of them was at the middle stage martial ancestor realm while the other was at the half-step to martial god realm. This kind of strength was not to be underestimated in Qingzhou. Of course, the 2 people had attracted Lin Ling's attention mainly because Lin Ling sensed the aura of the slumbering heroic spirits from them. Could it be that the slumbering heroic spirits wanted to use Miss Yunyan to get close to the 3rd princess and control Qingzhou? However, with the king of venomous worms' strength, he should not be interested in Qingzhou. Therefore, the king of venomous worms must have other motives. The street was silent. Lin Ling was deep in thought. Perhaps the platinum evil spirit behind him was too tall and had attracted Miss Yunyan's attention. This was because her gaze had passed through the platinum evil spirit and quietly landed on An Yu. Although An Yu was wearing a veil, for some reason, Miss Yunyan felt that the elder sister in the white dress was not as simple as she seemed. When she looked, her beautiful eyes were as clear as autumn water. Li Hu, who was next to Lin Ling, looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He cried out in surprise, "Beautiful, so beautiful. And Miss Yunyan is looking at me." Whoosh! Chapter 3957. He named them. His voice was like thunder in the silent street, causing everyone to look over. When they saw Li Hu drooling, they couldn't help but laugh. Beside him, Lin Ling's old face also turned red. This Li Hu was too disappointing. Because he realized that Lin Ling was also included in the disdainful gazes of the people. As for Miss Yunyan, she wasn't looking at Li Hu at all. That was why she had a look of disgust on her face. She also gave Lin Ling, who was standing next to Li Hu, a look of disdain. Although Lin Ling was much more handsome than Li Hu, she saw that Lin Ling was also staring at her. Naturally, she thought that Lin Ling was attracted by her beauty. She was truly a person who only looked good on the outside but was actually rotten on the inside. This Qingzhou is really a gathering place for mediocre people. They only know how to look at beauties all day long. No wonder their strength is so weak. At this moment, the old man and the young man beside Miss Yun Yen also stared at Li Hu. The young man said indifferently, his tone filled with disdain. His gaze was filled with disdain as well. Of course, with his strength, he naturally had the qualifications to look down on Li Hu. However, as Li Hu was from the martial god battalion, he had a strong backbone. Not only was he not afraid, he even glared back fiercely. Looks like you're not convinced. The young man immediately sneered. Originally, he felt that it was beneath him to make a move against an ant like Li Hu. However, this ant was looking at Miss Yun Yen with perverted eyes. This was an insult to him. In his eyes, Miss Yun Yen was already his woman. I'll play with you. He wanted to show off in front of the beauty, so he walked out and waved his hand. Young Master Zhou, you can't. Beside him, Miss Yun Yen's expression changed and she immediately tried to stop him. This was because she knew that this young Master Zhou's background was not simple. It was said that he came from an academy in a certain world, and his strength was monstrous. Not long ago, when he came to Qingzhou, her master, Princess Tian, was also very afraid of him. She even told her that this person should not be provoked. That was why she treated young Master Zhou as the host. As for why he had come to Qingzhou, she wasn't too sure. Don't worry, Miss Yun Yen. I'm just playing with him. I won't hurt him. After all, I'm still a guest. Young Master Zhou revealed a smile that he thought was dashing. He indeed came from the final world and was an expert from the 36th Academy. Originally, he shouldn't have appeared in Qin province, but he was someone from the place of eternal rest. He also received orders from the leader to investigate this place and approach Emperor Qin. It would be best if he could find some people from her mouth. Therefore, he and his father had appeared here. Furthermore, as time passed, his relationship with Emperor Qin had improved. He should be able to find those people through Emperor Qin. As for where those people came from, he didn't know. However, the leader told him that those people were related to Lin Ling. Beside him, Miss Yun Yen frowned. She wanted to stop them, but she was afraid that Master Zhou would be unhappy. However, if she didn't stop them, the young man from before would be in trouble. Then, she hurriedly looked at Li Hu and wanted him to apologize. She wanted to turn this into a small matter. Although Qin province is a small place, it's not a place that pigs and dogs can provoke. If you want to play, I'll play with you. However, before Miss Yun Yen could speak, the young man in blue beside Li Hu spoke. Miss Yun Yen was so angry that she almost stomped her feet. She wanted to turn this into a small matter, but the young man couldn't see through her and took the initiative to provoke them. Young Master Zhou, the martial artists of Qin province are a little arrogant. However, they don't have bad intentions, so don't take it to heart. Perhaps they're not talking about you. Then, Miss Yun Yen smiled at young Master Zhou. Pigs and dogs, in fact, they're talking about him. However, Lin Ling spoke again. Miss Yun Yen was fuming with anger. This person was too arrogant. He was looking for trouble. She glared fiercely at Lin Ling and kept trying to signal him with her eyes. Unfortunately, Lin Ling acted as if he didn't see it. In fact, he was indeed looking for trouble. That was because he wanted to use these two people to bring the Gu King to the surface. Brother Tai, are you saying that I'm a pig and a dog? At that moment, young Master Zhou was also looking at Lin Ling with a smile. Yes, that's right. I'm talking about you. Lin Ling nodded honestly. As if he was afraid that young Master Zhou wouldn't believe him, he pointed at him. This action not only angered Miss Yun Yen, but also made Li Hu's eyes twitch. It seemed that this guy named Lin Ling had a bad temper too. Previously, although he had a strong backbone, he only dared to stare at him. He didn't dare to speak. However, not only did Lin Ling speak, he even pointed out his name. Interesting. Then let's see who's the pig and dog. Young Master Zhou laughed. His realm essence was activated, causing the great Qing dynasty to be in an uproar. Everyone on the street was shocked. From the aura, they knew how powerful this person was. Even in the depths of the great Qing dynasty's palace, a group of powerful cultivators frowned. This was because they sensed a powerful aura shooting up into the sky. This aura was so terrifying that no one in Qingzhou was a match for it. Take a blow from me and I'll spare your life. Almost at the same time, young Master Zhou attacked. His speed was incomparably fast. His realm essence was so terrifying that it could topple mountains and overturn seas. It directly drowned the great Qing dynasty. In the sky of the great Qing dynasty, countless cranes cried and Qingzhou was shaken. So powerful. Miss Yunyan's expression changed. Although she already knew that young Master Zhou was very powerful, she didn't expect him to be so powerful. Could this be the strength of a cultivator from the outside world? Then, she stared at Lin Ling with hatred. It was that kid who spoke without thinking that caused young Master Zhou to be angry. Now, there was a game to be played. She only hoped that young Master Zhou could suppress his anger in time and not implicate the innocent people of Qingzhou. Of course, she was also prepared to help the blue-robed youth who spoke without thinking. After all, they were all from Qingzhou. She couldn't bear to see them die here. This bit of strength is really not enough. However, Lin Ling also walked out. As he walked, he shook his head and said, "Ask your lord to come out. He has some qualifications." Hearing this, young Master Zhou's lips curled into a disdainful smile. He couldn't be bothered to say anything. However, when his palm arrived in front of Lin Ling, he and Lin Ling looked at each other. However, he realized that Lin Ling's gaze was very calm. It was as calm as the sea. Moreover, within the calmness, there was a hint of mockery. It was as if he was saying, "Is this all you've got?" Young Master Zhou was furious. The terrifying palm directly hit Lin Ling. Not only did it contain the realm essence of the martial ancestor realm, it also contained 30% of the ancestor's realm essence. Boom! The power of this palm was so terrifying that the first wall of the city collapsed. The ground also continued to crack open. The onlookers all opened their mouths wide. What a powerful force! I didn't know that this person was so powerful. Previously, the blue-robed youth offended him. The difference in strength between the two of them is too great. I previously thought that the blue-robed youth was very powerful. In the end, he was easily defeated by a single attack. How disappointing. This is the price of acting tough. In order to get Miss Yunyan's attention, he forced himself to act tough. However, in the end, he failed. Chapter 39:58. Chapter 37:18. Lin Ling, you're back. Even Lady Yunyan shook her head helplessly, as she too assumed that Lin Ling was only trying to act tough. She was extremely disappointed in Lin Ling. She had assumed that even if Lin Ling could not win the battle, he should at least be able to resist the attack. However, he had been defeated before he could even unleash a single attack. At that instant, a series of exclamations could be heard from the street. Lady Yunyan raised her head and her eyes glistened as her body shuddered. The blue-robed young man was still standing on the street. Not only was he perfectly unharmed, he did not even take a step backward. He managed to resist the attack. Li Hu opened his mouth wide, as if his eyes were about to pop out from their sockets. Meanwhile, on the street, Lin Ling ignored the crowd's astonishment. He glanced at Mr. Zhou and said, only 30% of your progenitor force, how weak. With his current strength, even a half-martial god would not be able to harm him, let alone Mr. Zhou. How is this possible? Mr. Zhou stared at Lin Ling and shook his head continuously. He was a 6th-layer martial progenitor realm expert with 30% of his progenitor force. How could he fail to defeat this blue-robed young man with his full strength? Since when did the Qingzhou continent have such an expert? Everyone knew that there was no such expert even in the 9 continents. Nothing is impossible in this world. Lin Ling looked down at Mr. Zhou as if he had grown taller. Following this, he threw out a punch. Try taking a punch from me too. The punch seemed slow, but it contained an indescribable mystery, causing Mr. Zhou's face to turn pale. He instinctively raised his hand to block the attack. His arm was covered in a glow, a sign that he had accumulated a powerful realm force. However, as soon as the 2 attacks collided, a crisp sound could be heard, which was the sound of bones breaking. In the eyes of the crowd, the bones in Mr. Zhou's right arm protruded from his shoulder. This was the result of resisting Lin Ling's punch. How terrifying! Stomp stomp stomp. That young Master Zhou screamed and retreated. However, he was supported by a middle-aged man. It was young Master Zhou's father, Zhou Zheng. This man had not spoken before, giving off a gloomy feeling. At this moment, he looked coldly at Lin Ling and said, "You are not from Qingzhou." He was very clear that his son had jade zombie goo in his body, which was the ultimate 6th-grade desolate physique. Its defense was extremely strong and ordinary people could not harm him. But now, his right arm was broken with a single move. This meant that his opponent was not simple at all. Who said that I'm not from Qingzhou? You guys are the ones who are not from Qingzhou. What are you doing here? And where is your Gu King? Lin Ling smiled and said calmly. Gu King. The middle-aged man's expression changed, but he still shook his head. I don't know what you're talking about. I know how to fight, you know that. Lin Ling was still smiling, but he was already walking towards the middle-aged man step by step. The middle-aged man was a half-step to martial god realm expert, but he was extremely cautious. He looked at Miss Yun Yan and said, "Isn't your master Emperor Qing? Why is Qingzhou not doing anything when this person is behaving atrociously here?" Hearing this, Miss Yun Yan opened her mouth but did not speak. Because she also knew that she couldn't afford to provoke any of the experts from either side. Of course, the one that surprised her the most was the blue-robed young man. After all, she had always thought that he was just a hedonistic young master. The way you treat your guests is disappointing. Seeing that Miss Yun Yan did not speak, the middle-aged man did not continue his act. Instead, he chose to attack Lin Ling. Forget it. Since you forced me to attack, you'll only end up dead. Moreover, although I don't know who you are, there are some people that you can't fight against. A golden silkworm appeared behind the middle-aged man. It was the golden silkworm Gu from the land of eternal rest. As soon as the golden silkworm appeared, a fatal light bullet appeared. It could easily destroy the entire Qingzhou. Lin Ling stared at the huge golden silkworm and suddenly thought of the few experts that he had met at the Kaiyuan River. They also had golden silkworms. At that time, Lin Ling had to fight them with all his might. But now... Bang! Lin Ling stomped on the ground and shot out like a cannonball. Almost at the same time, the golden silkworm spat out a fatal light bullet that could cause a violent explosion. Rumble! However, with a punch from Lin Ling, the light bomb was directly blown apart, and a terrifying blast wave swept out. This guy is courting death. The middle-aged man was dumbfounded when he saw this. This was the first time that he had seen someone resist his attack with their physical body. However, he did not have time to be shocked because a figure rushed out from the blast wave. It was Lin Ling. What? The middle-aged man's heart instantly exploded. However, Lin Ling did not attack him. Instead, he pounced on the golden silkworm behind him. Then, he threw a punch that was as powerful as a storm. Bang, bang, bang. The huge golden silkworm was immediately sent flying into the sky by Lin Ling. Punch after punch, the golden silkworm was finally blown apart under countless shocked gazes. Countless amounts of energy scattered on the ground like meteors. Among those dazzling meteors, a figure slowly floated down. Pfft. On the ground, the middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood and looked dispirited. His goo was blown apart by Lin Ling and he was obviously seriously injured. Miss Yun Yan, this person is doing whatever he wants in Qingzhou. He even attacked your guests. Shouldn't you do something about it? Then, the middle-aged man looked at Miss Yun Yan anxiously. Until now, he was still pretending to be a guest because he was afraid that Emperor Qing would discover his purpose. Miss Yun Yan was suddenly put in a difficult position. Although Emperor Qing had entrusted her to take good care of these guests and not become enemies with them, these guests were very powerful. If they were displeased, they would very likely behave atrociously in Qingzhou. However, the blue-robed young man in the sky was not weak either. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, a large number of experts flew over from Qingzhou's sky. That's Senior Huang Fuidao. Lord Qi Yuhu. Li Hu's sharp eyes noticed that the expert behind the martial god battalion had arrived. Oh my god, isn't that Emperor Qing? Everyone was shocked. All the experts in Qingzhou had arrived. Then, those who did not know the situation looked at the blue-robed young man, thinking that he was in trouble. Even Miss Yun Yan thought so. However, she was so panicked that she did not realize that with the blue-robed young man's strength, even if Emperor Qing and the others came, it would be useless. After the large number of experts arrived, they first flew over and then slowly walked. Their gazes were solemn at first, but when they saw the blue-robed young man floating in the sky, they became excited. They walked towards the blue-robed young man in an orderly manner. As for Lin Ling, he nodded slightly at these people. Lin Ling, you're back. Master. Chapter 3959. The King of Venomous Worms had arrived. Master. Without a doubt, Miss Yun Yan bit down hard on her lips. She didn't even notice that her lips were bleeding from the bite. Master's master, could he be the legendary man? The real Emperor Qing of Qingzhou, Lin Ling. Boom. Everyone in the great Qing divine dynasty felt their hearts explode. The legend of Lin Ling was known to everyone in Qingzhou. Perhaps many people couldn't recognize Lin Ling after so many years. However, the name Lin Ling represented the entire Qingzhou. Emperor Qing. Then, countless people on the street knelt down. They knew that although Qingzhou looked peaceful, it was actually the hard work of the Emperor Qing behind the scenes. Everyone knelt down, which caused the great Azure divine dynasty to be incomparably silent. The only people standing were Yu and Li Hu, who was beside her. Li Hu was still standing because he felt like he was dreaming. Because a random passerby he met was the fucking Emperor Qing. God, are you kidding me? Big sister, is he the Emperor Qing? While he was in disbelief, he turned to Yuer and smiled bitterly. Unfortunately, Yuer said coldly, didn't you see it for yourself? Yuer had always been cold to outsiders, unless she was facing Lin Ling. Ah! Li Hu finally reacted and knelt down. He felt that with his luck, he would be shot even if he didn't do anything. No, he would win the lottery. He's the Emperor Qing. At that moment, the middle-aged man frowned and looked at the sky. Father, the Emperor Qing of Qingzhou seems to be Lin Ling. Beside him, young Master Zhou thought for a while and his expression changed drastically. Lin, he's back. And he found us. The middle-aged man immediately guessed something. Lin Ling attacked them for no reason, which explained everything. You two, how long are you going to pretend? At that moment, Lin Ling looked at them. The two of them gritted their teeth. Then, young Master Zhou shouted, Lin Ling, your good luck has come to an end. Let me tell you, the leader of the Land of Eternal Rest is in Qingzhou. He has been waiting for your return. Land of Eternal Rest? Hearing that, some older warriors immediately panicked because they knew that it was the 10 evils of the 9 states. The 10 evils of the 9 states was an extremely ancient force. They were like the parasites of the 9 states. Wherever they appeared, there would be a bloodbath. Over the years, there were people who wanted to get rid of them, but no one had the power to do so. Leader? What leader? In the past, there was an elder who came to Qingzhou in this place of eternal rest. At that time, the entire Qingzhou was poisoned by him. It was Emperor Qing, Lin Ling, who saved us. Now, he is no longer an elder, but a leader. The leader's strength is definitely stronger than the elder's. Everyone in the surroundings started to panic. Let me tell you. He's the Gu King of the Land of Eternal Rest. He's the number 1 Gu King, the leader of everyone. Seeing that everyone was afraid, young Master Zhou suddenly laughed. He was not surprised that people were afraid of the Land of Eternal Rest. Almost at the same time, the ground exploded. In the distance, a huge mass of meat ran along the ground. This mass of meat looked like a worm, but it was extremely large. Its skin was translucent, and one could roughly see the scene inside. There seemed to be many people imprisoned inside. However, upon closer inspection, they did not look like people. Instead, they looked like poisonous worms. Whoosh! The tentacles of the worm spewed out large amounts of smoke, covering the entire sky of Qingzhou. You're all finished. The leader is here. He's going to poison the entire Qingzhou. Those clouds are the spore goo poison. Even if you don't breathe, it will enter your body through your skin. Then, unknowingly, you will become the leader's goo poison. Seeing the colorful smoke in the sky, young Master Zhou was undoubtedly very excited. This caused people to panic even more. Master. The third princess and the others looked anxiously at Lin Ling. Don't worry, I'm here. Lin Ling's gaze was still fixed in front of him, but he waved his hand casually. If the Gu King was in his prime, Lin Ling would have to be careful. However, the Gu King was highly valued, so Lin Ling did not think much of him. Seeing Lin Ling's gentle movements, the third princess and the others were shocked. One should know that the Gu King was the leader of the 9 states' 10 evils. Was Lin Ling not afraid? Lin Ling, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Finally, after destroying countless houses, the worm stopped far away from Lin Ling. Old man, what are you doing? You've been bitten by the dragon corpse a few times, and now you've turned into a big fat worm. However, you look disgusting enough. Why didn't the dragon corpse tear you apart? Seeing this, Lin Ling smiled lightly. You. The worm's body trembled. After hearing Lin Ling's words, he also remembered what happened in the dragon's continent. At that time, he was in a miserable state. He was beaten up by the dragon corpse until he vomited blood. If not for the worm, he would have been torn apart. Of course, in the face of countless dragon corpses, it was normal for him to end up like this. However, why was Lin Ling unscathed? He had seen Lin Ling walk past the dragon corpse with his own eyes, but he was safe and sound. He still could not forget such unfair treatment to this day. You're dead, you're dead. Lin Ling, oh Lin Ling, you didn't expect this, right? Not only did I not die, after I escaped, I immediately came to find you for revenge. After being angry, the worm suddenly laughed. These are your people, right? Let me tell you, I want all of them to be my worms, all of them to be my worms. Your family, your friends, your wife, you'll regret it. When he said this, the Gu King was obviously very excited. He also controlled the multicolored clouds in the sky, and they rolled down to cover the sky. Lin Ling, oh Lin Ling, hand over the treasures on your body, and perhaps I'll spare your life. As for your people, if you agree to be my worms, I'll spare their lives. How about it? Did you expect this day to come? Let me tell you, no matter how monstrous you are, you're nothing in front of old monsters like me. The worm kept shouting, each sentence more excited than the last. It was as if he could see Lin Ling's regretful face and kneel down to beg for mercy. However, before he finished his last sentence, he fell silent. That was because Lin Ling, who was in the sky, had a strange horn in his hand. The horn was red and emitted a terrifying aura. At a closer look, the horn looked like a coxcomb. Lin Ling blew at the coxcomb, then threw out the horn. Next, the smoke in the sky turned into a whirlpool and was sucked in by the horn. From afar, the scene was extremely spectacular. Even the worm almost clapped his hands. To be able to see such a scene in his life, this trip was not in vain. Chapter 3960. Flaunting Treasures. That's the comb of the Li Chao divine chicken. Heavens, why do you have such a thing? Following that, he let out a trembling voice. Regardless of what kind of goo it was afraid of one thing, and that was chickens. That was because, be it centipedes or spiders, all of them had a natural enemy, and that was the chicken. Of course, this chicken was not an ordinary chicken. It had to be a divine chicken, and there were many types of divine chickens. However, it was undeniable that they were a branch of the phoenix bloodline. And the horn that appeared in Lin Ling's hand was made from the comb of the Li Chao divine chicken. It could produce a sound wave attack similar to a chicken's cry. Other than that, it was the bane of the Goo King's goo poison. He, the Goo King, was like a huge meat worm that was being targeted by a rooster. And what angered him the most was that Lin Ling suddenly threw up his hands and said, "Of course I bought this horn. You." The meat worm was so angry that its entire body trembled. Looking at your wretched state, you seem to have been injured by the dragon aura. And I happen to have the Grand Ease Poria pill here. It can cure all kinds of strange powers. If you consume it, you can probably recover 60% of your strength. At this moment, a pill appeared in Lin Ling's hand. He waved it and said with a smile, "Grand Ease Poria pill." The meatworm trembled once again. He had heard of such a pill before. In fact, such a pill was not used to cure poison, but to suppress all kinds of strange powers. For example, if a warrior was entangled by lightning, his entire body would be paralyzed, and such a pill could relieve the paralysis. Or if one was frostbitten by the ice elemental ultimate desolate physique, this pill could also defrost it. As for the Goo King, he had been pursued by the dragon corpses in the Kaiyuan River. He had a large amount of dragon aura that required him to constantly release it. After all, he did not have Lin Ling's dragon god talent. However, releasing it took a lot of time. It would probably take at least 100 years. However, the pill was able to completely digest the dragon chi in his body. To him, this kind of medicinal pill was undoubtedly an existence akin to sending charcoal in snowy weather. Other than that, I also have a corpse fruit. At this moment, Lin Ling said with a smile. A black fruit appeared in his hand. This fruit looked a little terrifying. Its surface was actually full of skeletons, and it was quietly wriggling. Corpse fruit. According to legend, it was a place where millions of corpses gathered. It was a fruit formed by the good fortune of heaven and earth. It contained a large amount of nether chi and corpse chi. It was suitable for some martial artists who cultivated the nether attribute. For example, the Goo King could use this fruit to plant goo. If he used it on the dragon god, his success rate would increase by 70%. If he had such a fruit back at the Kaiyuan River, he wouldn't have been in such a sorry state. Give it to me. The king of venomous worms shouted anxiously. As the king of venomous worms, how could he not be tempted by such a treasure? I also have a bottle of acupuncture point sealing blood flower. It's said that when a martial god breaks through to the martial god realm and faces the divine tribulation, it can increase the chances of passing the divine tribulation by 30%. This is because this flower has the power to seal acupuncture points, seal blood, and seal the world, preventing the divine tribulation from finding the cultivator. By the way, I have a corpse emperor's finger bone here. I don't know which god it belongs to, but it seems to be very suitable for you. Lin Ling floated in the sky and continued to speak. His intention was naturally to anger the king of venomous worms. The truth was indeed so. Every time the king of venomous worms heard Lin Ling's words, his body trembled. If he had transformed into a human, his eyes would have turned red. This brat actually had so many precious treasures. Where did he get them? In the ancient dragon wilderness, as he had left in advance, he didn't know about the wedding banquet. Are you surprised? At this moment, Lin Ling smiled. Let me tell you, these are all bought in the store of God. Sigh, I bought too many. I don't even know which treasure to use first. Moreover, there are too many of them. I'm afraid I won't be able to use them all in my lifetime. Therefore, I can only throw away the useless treasures. After speaking, he took out a set of red and green divine armor and handed it to the third princess. Take it, this is for you. The set of divine armor made the king of venomous worms jealous again. This was because he also came from the ancient dragon wilderness and had a jade token in his hand. He was very familiar with the treasures in the store of God. Naturally, he knew about the set of divine armor. The divine armor was called Fire Descending Glaze. It was an innate divine weapon that had reached the 3rd grade. Wearing this armor, if one activated their realm essence, they would be able to form a fire glaze around their body. Not only was their attack powerful, but their defense was also extremely good. Although this set of armor wasn't very fatal to him, he knew that such a treasure armor would be priceless in the final world. However, this brat actually gave away such a treasure so casually. You bought so many treasures. The king of venomous worms' body continued to tremble. His heart was bleeding. This was too unfair. So many treasures were taken away by this brat. If these treasures belonged to him, his life would be wonderful. Good. As the saying goes, don't show off your wealth. However, you keep showing off your treasures in front of me. It seems like I have no choice but to take action. The king of venomous worms said word by word. His voice was filled with excitement and greed. Leader, you have to get those treasures. On the ground, young Master Zhou also shouted. The treasures that Lin Ling took out previously made him extremely jealous. Don't worry, I will definitely get them. You will also be rewarded. The king of venomous worms nodded excitedly. His words made young Master Zhou and the rest overjoyed. Lin Ling, why don't you surrender? Maybe the leader will spare your life on account of your treasures. Young Master Zhou looked at Lin Ling arrogantly and said after he was overjoyed. Right now, he was not afraid of Lin Ling at all. With the leader around, if he was still afraid of Lin Ling, he would not be able to learn martial arts. The treasures are with me. Whether you can get them or not depends on your ability. Hearing that, Lin Ling smiled and did not say anything else. He took a step in the sky and the entire void exploded. Then, Lin Ling shot towards the king of venomous worms like a cannonball. Seeing that Lin Ling took the initiative to attack, young Master Zhou and the rest on the ground were stunned. They pointed at Lin Ling and laughed dumbfoundedly. Was that brat a retard? Although Lin Ling had defeated them previously, they all agreed that no matter how powerful Lin Ling was, he would never be a match for the king of venomous worms. The strength of the leader of the resting ground of heroic spirits was not to be underestimated. Even the king of venomous worms was stunned. He thought that Lin Ling was a little crazy. However, he immediately sneered. The originally huge flesh worm expanded like a balloon at this moment. "Come, my body is full of venomous worms. If you touch me, you are dead meat." The king of venomous worms snorted at the same time. He could even imagine that when Lin Ling arrived in front of him, he would be drowned by his flesh. That guy would probably scream in pain. However, Lin Ling was a little cunning. He had to prevent him from escaping. Chapter 3961. Sparks and lightning flashed all the way. However, what shocked the Goo King once again was that Lin Ling did not seem to have any intention of running away in the face of the flesh worm he had transformed into. Instead, he was getting closer and closer. Moreover, Lin Ling only used one punch, a seemingly weak punch. Such a fist, perhaps his physical body would be able to swallow it in one gulp. Whoosh! Lin Ling's speed was not fast, but it was still as fast as a shooting star. When Lin Ling crashed into the mountain of flesh, Goo King's heart finally changed. This was because his body had actually caved in from the impact. The people in the distance all sucked in a breath of cold air because they could see that the huge mountain of flesh in front of them was being knocked back by Emperor Qing Lin Ling. What kind of power is this? Goo King roared. How could he have known that Lin Ling was wearing the Dragon God battle armor? Although he had sacrificed speed, his gravity had long since reached 40,000 worlds worth of power. Even though the king of venomous worms was one of the best in the martial god realm, he could not resist the force of 40,000 worlds. Boom! Then, the giant flesh worm flew out like a cannonball and smashed into the great Azure God dynasty. However, Qingzhou was silent. The third princess and the others all had their jaws dropped. Lin Ling had actually sent that meat worm flying with a single punch. Heavens, how much strength was needed to do that? This, how is this possible? That's the chief. He was sent flying with a single punch. As for young Master Zhou, he was dumbfounded. He even thought that he had met a fake leader. Otherwise, how could he be so weak? Lin Ling. In the distance, the flesh worm was still rolling on the ground, looking very funny. Obviously, it was confused by Lin Ling's punch. Flesh worm, I don't care what you're doing in Azure Province, but this is my territory. I won't allow you to behave atrociously here. At this moment, Lin Ling appeared on the ground with a large number of divine weapons floating around him. Above his head was the true inheritance dark sword. Then, he reached behind him with his right hand, and when the Tyrant Song's sword appeared in his hand, he immediately galloped on the ground. Bang bang bang. The earth trembled from his stomp, as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. This was also the might of the Dragon God armor. Lin Ling's speed was still not fast, but at this moment, he was like a giant, rushing forward. Come on, let's see who can hurt who. In front of him, the meat worm crawled up and roared at Lin Ling. At this moment, Goo King was infuriated. If he was not severely injured, Lin Ling could kill Goo King with just one finger. But now, he, one of the 9 prefecture's 10 evils, had been sent flying. It was truly a case of a tiger being bullied by a dog. Be my Goo. After that, Goo King did not dare to confront Lin Ling head-on because that was not his strong suit. The giant flesh worm's tentacles once again spewed out a large amount of smoke, but this time it wasn't multicolored, it was green, and all of them were flying towards Lin Ling. Upon closer inspection, those were not smoke, but green goo worms as thick as hair. Ding ding dang dang. However, these goo worms could not get close to Lin Ling at all. It was as if they had hit an iron plate, making crisp sounds. On the other hand, Lin Ling rushed past the goo worms and was getting closer to the flesh worm. What? You still have so many divine armors. The Goo King was shocked at first, but he immediately saw dozens of divine armors appear around Lin Ling's body. They shone brightly. It was those divine armors that blocked the invasion of the goo worms. Goo King also knew that Lin Ling could not unleash the full power of the divine armors. However, Lin Ling had so many sets of divine armors that he did not need to unleash the full power of the divine armors. He only needed to unleash 30% of the power of each set of divine armors, and that was enough. Of course, this was also a prodigal. This brat is too fierce. As the saying goes, the young and strong fear the fist. I am severely injured now, and it is not suitable for me to fight him head-on. Seeing Lin Ling getting closer and closer, Goo King could not help but feel a sense of fear. He was frightened by Lin Ling's aura. Let's avoid him first. Goo King planned to avoid him first. However, as soon as he moved, he realized that he had slowed down a lot. Moreover, there was a mysterious power shrouding his body, which made Goo King, who was already weak, even weaker. My speed. Goo King was shocked. His speed had been reduced by 50%. And my defense. His defense had also been reduced by 50%. In fact, even his attack had been reduced by 50%. This prompted Goo King to check his surroundings immediately. Suddenly, he realized that bamboo slices of different colors and an incense burner had appeared around him. Some of the bamboo slices were huge, while some were as big as a palm. However, when they floated in the sky, they emitted a mysterious melody. As for the incense burner, it was burning with incense, which also looked magical. Goo King instantly knew that those treasures had suppressed his power. However, what the hell were those treasures that could suppress the power of a martial god realm expert? I bought these treasures from the store of God. As if he had noticed Goo King's shock, Lin Ling's indifferent voice came from the front. The store of God again. Goo King was furious. Could that guy have emptied the store of God? At that moment, he suddenly regretted it. He should not have appeared when Lin Ling was at his peak and fought with him head-on. Sword, come. At that moment, a cold voice was heard. Around Lin Ling's body, the dark sword of the true inheritance kept dancing and gradually merged. These swords moved along with Lin Ling's running. In the end, when the 18th dark sword of the true inheritance disappeared from Lin Ling's hand, a 2-meter-long divine sword appeared. Bang! Lin Ling suddenly held the sword tightly and crossed the two swords. The realm essence of the 6 major dantians was activated. All of his physical strength was also activated. One must know that Lin Ling's current talent had greatly increased, and his physical strength was also on a whole new level. Moreover, this was under the suppression of the Dragon God battle armor. If he were to remove the Dragon God battle armor, even Lin Ling himself didn't know the limits of his physical strength. All of his strength in addition to the tyrannical Song Sword's peak ancestral power and the dark sword of the true inheritance was terrifying. Crack! 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 The two swords slashed along the ground. The ground was burned and a bottomless sword mark appeared. Looking from afar, the scene was extremely spectacular. A figure holding two swords charged towards the huge mountain of flesh in front of him, leaving behind sparks and lightning. Impossible, he's courting death. In the silence, Sir Zhou gritted his teeth. He still did not believe that Lin Ling was a match for the leader. However, Goo King trembled and cursed angrily. Lin Ling was too shameless. Not only did he take advantage of the fact that he was severely injured, he even released a large number of treasures to seal him. He was like a pig being slaughtered. On the other hand, Lin Ling was armed to the teeth with treasures. He could not attack at all. It was too unfair. Lin Ling, wait! Goo King roared at the critical moment. Unfortunately, Lin Ling would not wait at all. He even quickened his pace. Crack! Crack! Chapter 3962. Like-minded. Clang! Almost as soon as Lin Ling passed by the mountain of flesh, he finally came to a stop. He slowly put away his swords and carried the mountain of flesh on his back. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Boom! In the next moment, the enormous flesh mountain exploded, and countless stinky venom sprayed out. Looking from afar, the flesh worm that was bigger than a mountain had been cut in half. Ah! Young Master Zhou and his father opened their mouths wide and almost fainted. The leader of the resting grounds of heroic spirits had been defeated. After all, he was a prominent figure in the martial god realm, and he was only inferior to the 10 great martial gods of the 9 prefectures. In their hearts, their leader was invincible. However, the leader was not defeated by a famous expert, nor was he defeated by some old monster. Instead, he was defeated by a rising star. Lin Ling, I'll remember this. When the flesh worm exploded, there were also many goo worms flying around and emitting malicious words. These goo worms were transformed from the Goo King. Although this old ghost was highly valued, it was also extremely difficult to kill. Even though it was cut in half by Lin Ling, it was still alive. It was just that its originally heavily injured body had become even more serious now. You don't want my treasure anymore. Lin Ling did not continue the chase. He knew that he should not pursue a cornered enemy when facing the Goo King because the old man's methods were strange. He knew that it would be easy to fall into his trap if he forced himself to chase. Furthermore, Lin Ling's original intention was to chase the Goo King away and let him know that he had to pay the price if he wanted to behave atrociously in Qingzhou. Now, the Goo King should have known the price. The next time he wanted to do this, he would think twice. Upon hearing Lin Ling's words, the Goo King was obviously stunned. Then, he seemed to have gone mad. Fuck, 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 fuck. He didn't know what to say. All he could do was curse and curse. This was because he finally knew why Lin Ling wanted to show off the treasure. It was so that he, the Goo King, could see it but not touch it. This was the most depressing thing in life. If he was at his peak, he would definitely kill Lin Ling. If he wasn't valued, he would definitely kill Lin Ling. However, there were no ifs in this world. Lin Ling heaved a sigh of relief when he noticed that the Goo King had run away like a madman. Although he looked relaxed earlier, he had actually gone all out. After all, many of his techniques were suppressed by the Dragon God armor and the Demigod Divine Pill. Naturally, he was reluctant to break these seals for the Goo King. However, he had already prepared 2 deadly divine weapons. If the Goo King wanted to fight with his life on the line, he would give up 1 or 2 treasures at most to kill him. Of course, Lin Ling was happy that the other party had escaped. After all, he did not want to waste those treasures on the Goo King. Those treasures were meant for Wen Tian martial god. Although the godly weapons in God's shop are powerful, they can't cause fatal damage to the martial gods at the top of the pyramid. Lin Ling muttered to himself. He also knew that as long as the 3-year battle came, these treasures would most likely be used up by then. Then, Lin Ling walked towards Master Zhou. I'm just passing by. Master Zhou rubbed his broken arm and his face was extremely pale. His father did not say a word but his eyes were flickering. He was obviously scared. Although he was a half-step to martial god, he knew that it would not be difficult for the blue-robed young man to kill a martial god, let alone a mere half-step to martial god. Lin Ling did not say a word and continued to walk forward. However, his footsteps seemed to be stepping on their hearts, causing them to tremble even more. We're really just passing by. This time, even the middle-aged man spoke. Lin Ling's footsteps finally came to a stop as he looked down at them. That gaze caused their hearts to thump violently. Lin Ling shook his head and turned around to leave. He's not going to kill us. Young Master Zhou's eyes flashed, and a smile appeared on his face. Bang! However, at that moment, a burly figure suddenly appeared. It was the golden white evil spirit. He slowly took off his cloak and revealed a creepy smile. Father, what's that? Wow, I was scared to death. Looking at the smiling face, Master Zhou's legs turned to jelly and he fell to the ground. His pants were wet. However, the sinister middle-aged man beside him was not any better. His legs continued to tremble. I can pretend that you're just passing by if it's anything else, but not here. At that moment, Lin Ling's cold voice was heard. This was Qingzhou. Lin Ling had many relatives and friends. Lin Ling could not afford to make any mistakes here, not even a little bit. Because of a small mistake, his grandfather and the rest would not be able to stop it. By then, the people would be plunged into misery and suffering. Therefore, Lin Ling would rather kill the wrong person than let them go. Without a doubt, Master Zhou and his father had been devoured by the golden white evil spirit. Lin Ling. Master. However, no one paid attention to them. At that moment, the third princess and the rest ran over excitedly. Moreover, when they thought of the previous battle, they were shocked. Although the previous battle was not considered earth-shattering, the strength displayed by Lin Ling and the flesh worm had given them a sense of pressure. This made them realize that the strength of that force was definitely beyond their imagination. I never thought that the kid from the martial gods barracks would grow to such a level today. Qi Yuhu exclaimed. In the past, Lin Ling was just a new recruit in the martial gods barracks. Because of Huang Fuidao's recommendation, he finally groomed Lin Ling as the next marshal. However, who would have imagined that a mere martial gods battalion couldn't tolerate Lin Ling at all? In the end, Lin Ling became the Grand Marshal of the 6 armies. Moreover, the Grand Marshal couldn't tolerate Lin Ling, and Lin Ling even became the Azure Emperor and soared through the 9 continents in the end. Thinking back, everything felt like a dream. That kid is terrifying. Lord 8th also sighed. In the Yangtze River, each new generation surpassed the previous one. Now, when he met Lin Ling, he was like a junior. He was very curious. How did Lin Ling cultivate? Why did Lin Ling's cultivation bottlenecks seem to be non-existent to others? Lin Ling. In the distance, the people from the 3 academies also arrived. Leading them was the Dean of the Resplendent Academy. Lin Ling, you're back. The brothers and companions who had fought side by side in the past also rushed over. There was Falling Flowers, Flowing Water, Tang Yue, and the others. They were all companions who had accompanied Lin Ling as he grew up. However, Lin Ling's pace seemed to have no end. In the end, he surpassed them and walked further and further. Is everyone okay? Looking at the familiar faces, Lin Ling's eyes became moist. These people were his friends, brothers, and companions, but they were also the memories of his life. Especially when he saw everyone's heartfelt excitement, Lin Ling felt very proud. In his life, he had been to too many places. Everywhere he went, he would have a group of like-minded friends. There were also friends in the rainforest sacred land, like Lady Shui Wu and the others. There were also friends in the Green Province. There were even more in the Heaven Mystics Kingdom. Chapter 3963. Ancestor Extreme Flame had arrived. Waha, you're amazing. Oh right, Sakura, where are Meng Lu and the rest? After Tang Yue and the rest arrived, each and every one of them surrounded Lin Ling and laughed loudly. Currently, only 3 people from Qing province had walked out. They were Lin Ling, Sakura, and Meng Lu. They're all fine. Lin Ling also laughed out loud. Lord Lin Ling, I'm really envious of you. You went out to adventure, and when you came back, your strength was simply impressive. But we stayed in this small place. Although we grew quickly, it can't compare to the outside world. Blossoming Flowing Water Sword said with a look of admiration. I was just lucky. Lin Ling chuckled. At this moment, the 3rd princess walked over and called out sweetly, Master. 3rd princess, well done. Lin Ling was full of praise for the third princess. For example, young Master Zhou and the others. The third princess knew that these people were not weak, so she focused on stabilizing them and not making them hostile. This way, there would not be more deaths in Qingzhou. This was clearly done for the sake of the big picture. It was something that a leader had to consider. Thank you for your praise, Master. The third princess smiled. She had always been dignified, but in front of Lin Ling, she was like a student. Behind the crowd, Miss Yunyan's body was trembling. Previously, she thought that Lin Ling was the same as those young masters, lecherous and shameless. But now, she knew that she had embarrassed herself to the core. Because that was his grandmaster. She actually suspected that grandmaster was coveting her beauty. Right now, she wished she could dig a hole and hide in it. Yunyan, quickly come and meet your grandmaster. However, at this time, the third princess' voice rang out as well. Miss Yunyan's face changed color and she almost walked out in tears. However, what surprised her was that Lin Ling was looking at her with a faint smile. He didn't mind her previous rudeness. Since you're my grand disciple, then this jade pendant is a gift from me. After Lin Ling smiled, a blue jade pendant appeared in his hand, and he handed it over. Yunyan froze on the spot. She was a little embarrassed to accept it. However, the third princess beside her urged her to accept it. Even though it's not a treasure, it's able to resist 3 attacks from experts below the martial god realm. Lin Ling explained. In reality, he had treasures that were even more valuable than this. However, it wasn't that he didn't want to give them away, it was because Yun Yan and the others were too weak to activate them. Plus, a man's wealth is his own ruin. If Yun Yan had a treasure that was too valuable, it would only bring her more trouble. Tang Yue, this is for you. Next, Lin Ling gave a treasure to each of his acquaintances. Those treasures were extremely precious in Qingzhou, no, in Jiuzhou. After all, it was from the shop of gods. Wow, Master Lin Ling, thank you for your treasures. I love you to death. Tang Yue was a princess, but at this moment, she was as excited as a little girl. She ran in front of Lin Ling and gave Lin Ling a hard kiss on the cheek. Ha! The crowd immediately burst into laughter. They knew that only people like Tang Yue, who grew up with Lin Ling, would dare to be so impudent. Lin Ling touched his cheek helplessly. After so many years, this girl still didn't look like she had grown up. However, when the third princess and the others saw Tang Yue's actions, their eyes were suddenly filled with jealousy. If it weren't for the fact that there were too many people around, the third princess and the others would definitely sneak an attack on Lin Ling. Who told you to take advantage of me? After kissing Lin Ling, Tang Yue said with a smile. This made many people roll their eyes. Even though Tang Yue was a princess and a girl, they still felt that Tang Yue had taken advantage of Lin Ling. After all, Lin Ling was the Emperor Qing behind the scenes. Come, Yue. After chatting with the crowd for a while, Lin Ling also called an Yue over. An Yue was unfamiliar to many people. Even though An Yue also came from Qingzhou, she went missing when she just entered the academy. An Yue smiled. She didn't want to be too rude, so she removed the veil on her face and bowed slightly to the crowd. So beautiful. Once the veil was removed, countless people gasped. An Yue was originally a fairy-like figure. Her temperament was otherworldly, and coupled with her beautiful face, it was naturally enviable. This guy's wives are all so beautiful. Falling flowers, flowing water, and the others said enviously. Tang Yue, the third princess, and the others felt inferior. They finally knew why Lin Ling didn't like them. It turned out that the women around Lin Ling were all extremely beautiful, such as Yu, Xian Yuan Gu, and the others. Greetings, Master's wife. I've always heard about you from Master. I didn't expect Master's wife to be so beautiful. You're a perfect match for Master. Then, the third princess hurriedly bowed. And Yuer smiled gently when she heard that, but she was secretly happy. Lin Ling whispered in her ear, "Did you hear that? You and I are a perfect match. You're so annoying." And Yuer immediately replied in a low voice. The sweet look on their faces undoubtedly made many people smile. In their eyes, this man and woman were indeed a match made in heaven. Ling, her. While they were happily chatting, a large number of people arrived from afar. This time, it was Ancestor Tai Yen and the others. "Master, Grandpa Tai Yen and the others have been living in the fragment of the flame world. I've already informed them," so they immediately rushed over after receiving the news. The third princess smiled and looked into the distance. Then, she shouted, "Grandma Wendao. You're here." Seeing Ancestor Tai Yen and the others, Lin Ling's body shook. He hadn't returned for many years since he went to the final world. Now that he saw his family again, he was naturally extremely excited. No matter how domineering he was in the outside world, in front of his family, he was still the young man from the Fire Ancient clan. Ling, her. In the distance, an old man rushed over. As he walked, tears flowed down his face. He was none other than Ancestor Extreme Flame. Behind Ancestor Tai Yen was Lin Ling's mother, Amo Nianchen, followed by Lin Ling's grandfather, Grandma Wendao, and the others. Father. Lin Yi and his wife were among them, and there was a 5 or 6-year-old girl between them. "Quick, call me Grandpa," Lin Yi said excitedly to the little girl. The little girl was extremely cute, like a porcelain doll. Lin Ling was stunned for a moment, then he couldn't help but be overjoyed. He was a grandfather. However, the little girl might have the same bloodline as Lin Ling, so she wasn't afraid of strangers. She looked at Lin Ling with her big eyes and immediately shouted, "Grandpa." "Good, good, good." Lin Ling took a step forward and hugged the little girl. Then, he planted a kiss on her tender face. Ling, her. Chapter 3964. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. The battle that started 3 years ago. You child. Patriarch Extreme Yan's eyes were already wet. He then helped Lin Ling up. His old eyes suddenly turned, and he saw an Yuer beside Lin Ling. He couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "An Yuer." They were naturally very familiar with an Yuer. Ever since the great change in the Heaven Mystics Kingdom, an Yuer had been staying with the Fire Ancient clan. In their hearts, an Yuer was already their daughter-in-law. Grandfather, mother. An Yuer was also very obedient. She bowed to Patriarch Extreme Yen, Amo Nianchen, and the others, which made the older generation laugh heartily. Lin Ling. At this moment, Qin Xiaolan walked over with a smile. Behind her were Lu Susu and the others. Each of them was a first-class beauty. Seeing them, Lin Ling couldn't help but feel a little guilty. These women had been waiting for him, Lin Ling. However, they weren't as lucky as Yu and the others. Due to their weaker talents, they could only stay in Qinzhou. Lin Ling walked forward and held Qin Xiaolan and the others' hands. He looked at them affectionately. Finally, all the words he wanted to say were reduced to one sentence: "Thank you for your hard work." This sentence seemed calm, but it was like thunder. It made Qin Xiaolan and the others' hearts tremble. They had been waiting for Lin Ling all the time. Sometimes, they even complained that Lin Ling ignored them. However, after Lin Ling returned, one sentence from him made them feel that it was all worth it. This was because they also knew that Lin Ling didn't deliberately neglect them. Lin Ling had his own goals. Hence, they could only wait. "I, Lin Ling, swear that on the day I rule Huanyu, I will bring you all around Huanyu. I will accompany you day and night." Lin Ling then said word by word, "If I go back on my oath, I shall be struck by lightning and have my soul destroyed." However, before Lin Ling could finish, Lu Susu and the others stopped him. They hugged Lin Ling and cried, "We believe in you." Ancestor Extreme Flame and the others smiled as they watched this scene. They didn't interrupt Lin Ling and the others. After a long while, Lin Ling led Lu Susu and the others towards Ancestor Extreme Flame. "Grandpa, my name is Lin Xiaoji." The innocent Tong Yen also let Lin Ling carry the little girl. Then, he led his family and friends towards the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. Today, Lin Ling was undoubtedly very happy. Because he had been waiting for this day for a very long time. That night, Qing Province was undoubtedly lively. The entire vast Qing Province was like a festival. Every house was decorated with lanterns and streamers. The next day, Lin Ling's master, Xing Xian, also rushed over from Spirit Province. Of course, when the old man saw Lin Ling now, not only was he terrified, but he also treated him like a junior. Lin Ling also enjoyed these peaceful days. During this period, he didn't cultivate much. He just threw large amounts of treasures into his dantian every day. He was waiting for the moment when the seal on the elixir was lifted and he could enter the martial god realm in one fell swoop. Because he didn't cultivate much, Lin Ling's sharpness was hidden. It made him look more like a very ordinary cultivator. Of course, Lin Ling naturally took advantage of the days he spent with Qin Xiaolan and the others. "Senior sister, isn't your divine embryo body able to nurture my divine embryo body? Why don't I feel it? Did you go in?" "I did, but I do feel a strange power in your body." "Ah, I forgot. When I cultivate now, all my power will be sucked into the whirlpool of the demigod divine pill." "You idiot." At night, Lin Ling and the others' laughter came from the room. When they looked at the side room, the fragrance of food filled the air. On the bed, a young man was lying on a big bed. Beside him were a few beautiful women. "You all have your own specialties. Some have long legs, some have big boobs, some have good skin. TSK, different tastes." "Ah, Lu Susu, why are you pinching my ear? You bad guy." Time passed quietly just like that. Lin Ling seemed to be living a leisurely life, but he was also silently counting the time. He knew that the 3-year promise was coming soon. In addition to spending time with his family, Lin Ling also occasionally learned about Lin Yi's cultivation. He also focused on nurturing his granddaughter, Lin Xiaoji. However, this little brat's talent was also very good. Her strength was not weak at such a young age. If Yu knew about this, she would probably be even happier. Of course, this was still not enough for Lin Ling. He currently had many treasures, so he planted the ultimate divine embryo body in his granddaughter. In time, this little brat would definitely become a majestic goddess of war. As for Patriarch Extreme Flame and the others, Lin Ling threw many treasures on them to forcefully raise their cultivation. Although this kind of forceful increase was not good, Patriarch Extreme Flame and the others had already reached their limit. There was no other way. Before they knew it, only 10 days were left until the 3-year promise. On this day, Lin Ling took an yuer and left. Everyone knew Lin Ling's goal, so they did not stop Lin Ling. This was because they knew that Lin Ling must have his own reasons for doing so. In this regard, they could only wish Lin Ling well. "Ling, when you have time, bring Yu and the others back. I haven't seen them in so many years, I miss them." Patriarch Extreme Flame watched Lin Ling and the others gradually disappear, and his eyes became moist. Although this grandson of his didn't stay for long each time he returned, he could still understand Lin Ling. This was because without Lin Ling running around outside, there would be no peace in Qingzhou. "Okay." In the distance, Lin Ling's voice came and gradually disappeared into the universe. One day later, they finally arrived at the world. Looking at the ancient land, Lin Ling's eyes became slightly excited. He had lived 2 lives, and his biggest goal in this life was revenge. This was also his sore point. Moreover, he also knew that if Tian Liuli knew that he, Lin Ling, was still alive, she would definitely come to kill Lin Ling. Therefore, everything had to end. Then, he couldn't help but think of his previous life. At that time, Tian Liuli and the other two were just three very ordinary people who lived in a small valley. If Li Xiaoyao hadn't forced his way into their world, perhaps they would have turned into a pile of bones by now. However, human ambition was endless. Li Xiaoyao had brought them into a new world. Like other warriors, they also wanted to reach the peak of the universe. However, the path they took was an unorthodox path. They made themselves stronger by sacrificing others. Whether it was Lin Ling or Li Xiaoyao, what they hated the most in life was betrayal. Therefore, Li Xiaoyao had come for revenge. If he couldn't succeed in this life, he would definitely succeed in the next. Currently, Tian Yanlin was dead, and only Tianwen Valley and Tian Liuli were left. Just like that, step by step, they walked towards the final world. Lin Ling was silent, but the aura on his body suddenly calmed down. He was as still as a mountain, steady and heavy. Beside him, An Yuer also didn't speak, which was rare. Obviously, she also knew that this battle was very important to Lin Ling. Chapter 3965. Goodbye, Longyang. Lin Ling. Yes. An Yuer could not help but call out softly. I'm fine. Yes. Lin Ling smiled and shook his head. The aura on his body was even more restrained. He did not look like an expert at all. Instead, he looked like an ordinary warrior. However, An Yuer knew that this was the result of his accumulation. This was also a dormant state. Everything was for that battle. After the battle began, the man beside her could instantly erupt with astonishing energy. Longyang, Wentian martial god. Yes. An Yuer's beautiful eyes also looked into the distance. There was a trace of murderous intent in the depths of her eyes. The two of them walked along the ancient earth towards the snow-blowing city. The wind of this final world suddenly became very tranquil on this day. Their clothes were gently fluttering in the wind, which was extremely comfortable. However, just as they were about to reach snow-blowing city, under a huge cherry blossom tree, a figure was quietly leaning against the tree trunk. Her slender dress was fluttering in the wind, and her fine black hair was also gently dancing, revealing a peerlessly beautiful face. You're back. Yes. A soft voice, as if talking to a friend, floated over with the wind. On the grassland in the distance, Lin Ling and An Yuer slowly walked forward. After seeing the woman under the cherry tree, both of them frowned. The woman's small white hand was wrapped in a strand of black hair. Her eyes were looking into the distance. However, from the corner of her eyes, she was looking at Lin Ling and Yi Qing Tang. There was also a trace of a smile in her eyes. And she was actually Longyang. Lin Ling was incomparably surprised. However, he also smiled faintly and said, "Yes, you're back." Although Longyang did not reveal any powerful aura, Lin Ling could faintly sense a sharp aura from her body. However, when Lin Ling carefully examined it, this aura disappeared again. Even Lin Ling could not see through Longyang. This showed that Longyang's strength was at the top of the martial god realm. Secondly, she had a treasure that could conceal her aura. Between the two, Lin Ling naturally believed the second point. After all, he and Longyang had been in the final world for about the same amount of time. If Longyang had reached the top of the martial god realm in such a short period of time, then it would be too terrifying. Of course, even on the second point, Lin Ling felt that Longyang was very powerful. Because, until now, Lin Ling had seen a genius who was not much weaker than himself. Longyang's figure could be seen everywhere in the spirit state, the flame state, and the final world. These were also the proof that Longyang was constantly growing stronger and walking towards greater heights. Are you here to laugh at me? Lin Ling smiled and said indifferently. At this moment, Long Yang slowly turned around and stared at Lin Ling with narrowed eyes. Her fine black hair fluttered in the breeze. She was undoubtedly very beautiful at this moment. However, she also looked at the young man with slight curiosity. The young man not far away was still the same as before. His handsome face was like an ancient well without ripples. It was as if even if the sky collapsed, the young man's expression would not change. In fact, Long Yang was very curious as well. She could not understand how Lin Ling, who was merely from the Qing state, could be so powerful. His speed of growth had reached a terrifying level. Every time Long Yang took a huge leap and thought that she had surpassed Lin Ling, the young man had walked even further away when they met again. The gap between them had not shortened at all. Long Yang had traveled extensively. She had been to forbidden grounds and divine treasures. She had seen countless outstanding people. However, this was the first time she had seen an outstanding talent like Lin Ling. Sometimes, she even wondered if this young man would not get tired if he kept moving forward. Did he not feel pressured with so many people chasing after him? Later on, she realized that she had been overthinking. This young man was very strong and had never felt tired. Of course I'm not here to laugh at you. I, Long Yang, can laugh at anyone but you. Long Yang smiled. Those who did not know her would think that she had a good relationship with Lin Ling. Her smile would undoubtedly make the sun and moon lose their light. That was because she was also a peerless beauty. However, compared to an Yuer, she was more ambitious, murderous, and domineering. I'm just here to remind you that the 3-year promise is coming soon. Then, Dragon Lady said word by word. I know. Lin Ling nodded calmly. I won't lose this battle. Although his words were calm, they were the most terrifying in Long Yang's heart. I won't lose either. Long Yang said seriously. For when Tian martial God. Lin Ling's eyes flashed as he asked curiously. Hearing this, Dragon Mother suddenly became silent. Her beautiful eyes quietly looked at Lin Ling, but she also seemed to be checking the surroundings. After seeing that there were no major problems, she faintly smiled and said, Why him? What does his business have to do with me? I'm doing this for myself. Yes. It was also a calm sentence. However, Lin Ling sensed a strong ambition. Lin Ling had a feeling that when Tian martial God, to Long Yang, was just a stepping stone. It was as if Long Yang's path of growth was filled with stepping stones that she stepped on and then surpassed. This is also a battle for my dignity. Yes. Seeing that Lin Ling was silent, Long Yang spoke again. At this moment, she seemed to be venting something. Because, she remembered the scene in the Spirit Province. At that time, Lin Ling used violent methods to take her first time. To someone as proud as her, this was the greatest humiliation of her life. She couldn't take it. Because, this was the only stain in her life. No one knew how many nights she had nightmares. In her nightmares, it was that man who treated her rudely. Therefore, she had to kill this dream with her own hands. Lin Ling sensed a terrifying aura from Long Yang. This aura was not only sharp, but it also carried a sense of determination and persistence. However, determination and persistence were the most difficult to deal with. Of course, there was also that pride. It was because her pride had been violated that Long Yang was so crazy. Lin Ling didn't speak. He looked at Long Yang silently. He also felt that it was very strange. In this 3-year battle, he, Long Yang, and Wentian martial God all had different goals. Wentian martial God wanted the chaos divine technique. Obviously, the latter also knew that this set of mysterious techniques could even move a god. Long Yang, on the other hand, did it for her dignity. She was a stubborn and proud woman. Lin Ling, on the other hand, did it for his dignity and for his pride. He would take back everything he had lost with his own hands. The three of them all had their own goals. "Ha, Longyang, what are you doing here?" However, at this moment, a chuckle suddenly sounded. Then, Lin Ling saw that the void had been torn apart, and a few figures slowly walked out from it. As for these people, Lin Ling was unfamiliar with them, but they all looked extremely powerful. "Longyang, this must be Lin Ling. When I was at One World Mountain, I heard some people talking about him." The leader was a young man in gray clothes. He looked extremely ordinary, but his cheeks were fleshy, his nose was high, and his eyes were sharp. He gave off an extremely harsh feeling. One World Mountain. Chapter 3966. He can only be scolded by me. This was one of the 7 great forbidden grounds of the 9 prefectures. At that time, Lin Ling was bitterly cultivating at the Kaiyuan River. He heard that Longyang's group had gone to One World Mountain, and there were quite a few people there as well. Could it be that these people had gone to One World Mountain with Longyang and the others? Yes. Longyang nodded when she saw who it was. Following this, they immediately shifted their attention to Lin Ling. Lin Ling discovered that they were all first-layer martial gods. Their realm essence was extremely strong, and their progenitor force had reached its peak. As for the peak of ancestral power, especially if it was cultivated by oneself, there would be this pressure spreading out, as if it was the power of a half-god. It was even to the extent that Lin Ling knew that if he wanted to step into the martial god realm, then he had to possess peak ancestral energy. On the other hand, Lin Ling hadn't comprehended much ancestral energy himself. However, his 2 swords, the Tyrant Song Sword and Nether Sword, both possessed peak ancestral energy, so they fulfilled the requirements for a breakthrough. Moreover, there were exceptions to everything in the world. It was said that if one wanted to step into the martial god realm, one could borrow the power of a peak martial ancestor to achieve the effect of a breakthrough. This was also the reason why some martial god realm experts seemed to have dense world essence, but in reality, their ancestral force was not strong at all. Of course, this result also caused those martial god realm experts to be weak, and even Lin Ling had killed quite a few. "You are Lin Ling." The young man in the lead looked at Lin Ling with contempt. "I am this moment. Remember my name." His attitude was overbearing. The other young men also laughed disdainfully, as if they were curious about how this kid in front of them was qualified to fight Longyang. Hearing this, Lin Ling shook his head. He couldn't be bothered to say anything more. Furthermore, he had to admit that Longyang's charm wasn't weak at all. Every time, there would be a flower protector moving out for her. "Lin Ling, don't underestimate him. He's ranked 2nd in the newcomer king rankings. His current strength has already placed him in the top 2 of the heavenly stairway. He surpassed many of the older generation experts." At this time, Longyang seemed to want to show off, so she said lightly, "I got it." However, Lin Ling still nodded calmly. Right now, he had placed all his attention on the battle of 3 years. Therefore, he did not care about the provocation of these people at all. This was because, in the eyes of ordinary people, the 3-year agreement was the most important. However, in Lin Ling's heart, that battle was only the horn that signaled his battle for revenge. The real battle was the battle after that battle. That was his battle for revenge. Battle, ask the heavens martial god. In the face of such an expert, Lin Ling didn't dare to slack off in the slightest. Therefore, he didn't have the time to pay attention to ordinary trivial matters. "Then you still dare to fight with Longyang? Do you know that you're courting death?" Seeing Lin Ling's silence and absent-mindedness, the youth called Shermu was a little displeased. He was a martial god expert, ranked 2nd in the newcomer king rankings. He heard that Lin Ling was also one of the newcomer kings. However, Lin Ling was qualified to fight with Longyang. He, on the other hand, wasn't. As for Longyang, she was ranked first in the newcomer king rankings. She was also Marshal God Wenqian's disciple. With her status and strength, who could compete with her? Therefore, he felt that Lin Ling seemed to have surpassed him and humiliated him. This also made him want to see what kind of person Lin Ling was. However, after seeing it with his own eyes, he couldn't help but feel disappointed. Lin Ling was just so. Looking at his aura, not to mention tyrannical, it wasn't even sharp. He could only be considered a very ordinary cultivator. However, Lin Ling still didn't speak. Do you know how weak you are? I can only feel a sense of helplessness from you. Do you know who you're provoking? Even we can easily defeat a newcomer like you. What right do you have to challenge Longyang? If I were you, I'd admit defeat now so that I don't embarrass myself. Trash, did you hear what I said? Seeing Lin Ling remain silent, the youth called Shimu became angrier and angrier. The word trash rumbled out like thunder. The grass on the prairie swayed with the wind, mixed with a violent aura. From afar, the heavenly elites stood in the sky as if they were looking down at a toad. However, the blue-robed youth standing on the ground was expressionless. His aura was as calm as an unmoving ocean. He only looked at the youth in the sky without speaking. Even his eyes didn't flicker. This kind of calmness was undoubtedly very shocking, and it also made those few young men even more furious. Perhaps in their eyes, Lin Ling's calmness was a kind of disregard and disdain. You coward! The youth called Shimu shouted angrily again. His voice carried a supreme might as if he was calling a slave. You shut up! However, at this moment, a clear voice suddenly interrupted. This voice was like a silver bell, but it carried a sharp aura. At this moment, the prairie fell silent. The powerful youths all opened their mouths wide and looked to the side. This was because the person who angrily rebuked them was Longyang. This. The youth called Shimu was clearly dumbfounded. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to talk about him? Longyang raised her eyebrows and scolded the youths like a mother hen protecting her young. You people were born in the final world since you were young. Do you know him? He came from the Qin province of the Nine province, the weakest divine province. Do you know how weak he was 10 years ago? And after 10 years, what level has he reached? You rely on your families, your masters, and the help of your elders. What about him? He relies on himself. Compared to him, you are nothing. You are the trash. With her last sentence, Longyang scolded those youths to no end. The youths felt as if they had been struck by lightning. They were extremely unhappy from being scolded and were even jealous. They seemed to be good friends with Longyang, but in fact, they knew that although this woman seemed easy to talk to, it was completely impossible to get closer to her. But now, she was scolding them for that trash. They instantly realized that the relationship between Longyang and the blue-robed youth was not as simple as it seemed. Longyang, he is your enemy, your opponent. We are helping you. The youth called Shimu said unwillingly. What a joke. He had taken the initiative to provoke the blue-robed youth in order to gain the favor of the number one beauty of the newcomer king. However, this action of his was in exchange for Longyang's scolding. He felt wronged and his heart almost exploded. Only I can scold him. No one else is qualified. Longyang looked at Lin Ling and said word by word. This. All the youths were speechless. Chapter 3967. Trash, it's you. Let's go. At this moment, Lin Ling strode forward as if he did not see the farce. And Yue nodded behind Lin Ling, but she also looked at the young man called Qi suddenly. A crystal ice sword appeared in her hand. I'm going to attack you. Be careful. And Yue said coldly. You. The young man called Qi was stunned and dumbfounded again. It was because he had seen this beauty a long time ago. Moreover, he was shocked like a celestial being. Now, this beauty was personally telling him that she was going to attack him. Was this a warning? Or was she looking down on him? This beauty, I'm called Qi. Qi. Qi immediately smiled. Obviously, he did not take this beauty seriously. However, after Anuer's warning, she did not bother to say anything more. Because she had already warned him, it was up to the young man to decide how to deal with it. Whoosh! She slashed with her sword and then kept it. She stepped forward and caught up with the young man in blue. Furthermore, this sword was incomparably fast, and there were no fluctuations that could be detected. Ka ka ka. But at this moment, an ice flower suddenly bloomed on his shoulder. This ice flower was incomparably beautiful, but at the same time it bloomed, ice energy spread along his shoulder like a tide, even domineeringly destroying the resistance in his body. Then, another ice flower bloomed on his other shoulder, followed by his thigh and chest. Countless ice flowers bloomed all over his body, as if he was frozen. At this moment, he could only feel the icy air spreading to his face and nose. It was as if it wanted to freeze his eyes and even his entire body. You're not even as good as me. How can you defeat my man? Trash, it's you. Trash. At this moment, a cold voice drifted over and landed clearly in Qi's ears. Trash, it's you. Just as he was about to lose consciousness, Qi was furious and exploded. Although he still thought that Lin Ling was only SOSO, he did not expect two beauties to support Lin Ling. One scolded him. The other attacked him. How could Lin Ling? The other young men were also stunned. They did not expect the ice beauty to be so strong. With her strength, she could probably enter the top 200 on the stairway to heaven. Even Longyang was shocked. However, she quickly looked at Lin Ling's back and said indifferently, I will kill you in this battle. It's time to end the grudge. In the distance, a calm voice drifted over. Although it seemed calm, it seemed to have blown the grassland, causing the grass on the grassland to become like the sea, with monstrous waves rising. After Lin Ling left the prairie, an ancient city soon appeared in front of him. It was Snow Wind City. After seeing Snow City, the corners of Lin Ling's mouth curled up slightly. That calm smile finally changed, with a touch of excitement. Beside him, Anuer also smiled, but she also looked at Lin Ling carefully. She realized that Lin Ling was very calm, as if he was indifferent to fame and fortune. Even in the face of the previous provocation, his emotions did not fluctuate. However, this kind of man was even more terrifying and attractive. This was because this was a kind of focus. After entering the ancient city, Lin Ling immediately brought Anuer to the courtyard. Lin Ling, you're back. Before they reached the courtyard, many people gathered outside the courtyard. When they saw the two people walking over from afar, they were all happy. Sister Yu, Yu and Xian Yuan Gu ran over happily, with tears in their eyes. Yu, Gu, And Yu's delicate body also trembled, and she quickly ran over. Lin Ling, on the other hand, smiled and followed behind Yu slowly. Looking at the others, they were the old woman, Zhang Qiri, Zhang Jian, Xiao Yu, etc. Moreover, young Master Yao and Majin Tianzi were also here. I heard that Lin Ling is back. In the distance, many people came. They were the people from Snow Wind Academy, led by the Dean and Vice Dean, and behind them were Tian Ao, Luo Wuchang, and the rest. Especially the few of them, when they saw Lin Ling, not only were they excited, but their eyes were also filled with admiration. Because in the ancient dragon wasteland, they witnessed Lin Ling's magic with their own eyes. Although they did not see Lin Ling's strength in the ancient dragon wasteland, it was undeniable that Lin Ling was their leader. So many people. Seeing the crowd, Lin Ling was also very surprised. This guy comes here every day to ask Yu and the rest if you're back. Half a month ago, they found out that you're back, but you're still in Qingzhou. At that time, they were already very happy. At this time, young Master Yao pointed at Tian Ao and the rest and said helplessly. He naturally knew about Lin Ling's situation in the ancient dragon wasteland through Tian Ao. Regarding this, he was very envious, not of Lin Ling, but of Tian Ao and the rest. Lin Ling, you're finally back. Then, when they saw Lin Ling arrive, everyone smiled. Why are all of you here? Lin Ling's heart warmed. He first greeted the dean and the rest, then looked at young Master Yao and the rest. Since you're back, how can we not come? Tonight, we're not going home until we're drunk. Young Master Yao threw a punch at Lin Ling's chest and laughed out loud. All right. When Lin Ling saw so many people gathered outside the courtyard, he invited them in. Without a doubt, the courtyard was bustling with noise and excitement. As night fell, everyone sat in the courtyard, drinking and eating as if they were a family. Lin Ling, in a few days, the battle of 3 years will be here. After a lively conversation, the dean looked at Lin Ling and said. She had only found out about this later and wanted to ask Lin Ling about it. In the end, Lin Ling had gone missing for 3 years. I heard that Longnyang is very powerful. She has already stepped into the martial god realm. At the mention of this, the atmosphere in the courtyard suddenly became solemn. Young Master Yao suddenly said, while you were bitterly cultivating at the Kaiyuan River, Longnyang and the experts of the 36 academies were at the One World Mountain. That place is also one of the forbidden areas of the 9 provinces. It said that Longnyang obtained a great opportunity. Not only did she step into the martial god realm, but her strength has also greatly increased. There were countless experts in the 36 colleges. Those who went to Kaiyuan River were only a portion of them. The number of experts who went to One World Mountain was no less than the number who went to Kaiyuan River. When he heard this, Lin Ling frowned. It is said that Longnyang is invincible in the initial stage of the martial god realm. No one in the first to third stage is a match for her. Majin Tianzi said. The two of them did not go to the ancient dragon wasteland. When they were free, they asked around for Lin Ling. I know. She is indeed very powerful. Lin Ling immediately nodded. Have you broken through to the martial god realm? Suddenly, young Master Yao looked at Lin Ling with anticipation. Chapter 3968. Challenging Feng Dichuan. I don't know either. Lin Ling shook his head with a wry smile. The crowd was dumbfounded. The battle was in a few days, and Lin Ling was still unaware of his strength. They thought Lin Ling was joking, but it did not seem like Lin Ling was joking. This meant that Lin Ling had not reached the martial god realm. This caused everyone's faces to be filled with worry for Lin Ling. Although Lin Ling's strength was outstanding, it was only against ordinary martial gods. Longnyang was not an ordinary martial god. She could do whatever Lin Ling could do, especially in the past 3 years, as Wentian martial god had been nurturing Longnyang. Longnyang's reputation had skyrocketed. Currently, there was no one in the 36 academies who had not heard of Longnyang's name. Time is too short. Lin Ling, you went to the Kaiyuan River, and Longnyang went to the One Boundary Mountain. In terms of luck, it's a tie. Besides, she has Wentian martial god, so it's better to have a duel. At this moment, the old woman suggested. The meaning behind her words was that she refused to fight. After all, she did not care about the duel. She only cared about the divine trials. Compared to the divine trials, the duel was nothing. No. Lin Ling shook his head. His eyes were filled with stubbornness. The old woman suddenly sighed. 3 years of time was simply too short. For a martial artist, it was only the time of a single closed-door seclusion. In this short period of time, how could Lin Ling compare to Longnyang? By the way, how's Wentian martial god? Lin Ling suddenly asked. Young Beast Lord and the others shook their heads. It was impossible for them to understand the world of the 10 great martial gods. I heard that he defeated the 10 extremities martial god in a duel, thus his ranking among the 10 extremities martial gods increased by 1 rank. The old woman explained as she knew more about the duel. Lin Ling did not know the ranking, but if Wentian martial god's ranking had risen by 1, it meant that his strength had improved greatly. Why are you asking? The old woman looked at Lin Ling and asked curiously. It's nothing. I was just asking. Nothing. Lin Ling would not tell them that his goal was to defeat Wentian martial god. Even though he trusted the old woman, it was better for him to keep the information to himself. After all, he would have to use all his treasures to kill martial god Wentian, and he only had 1 chance. You're worried that Wentian martial god will interfere with the duel? Yes. The old woman misunderstood Lin Ling's intentions. She smiled and said, don't worry, you are Lei Gong's subordinate, martial god Wen Tian won't dare to interfere in this battle. Yes. That's right, is there a space that can seal off the exit of outsiders, a place that even martial gods cannot break? Lin Ling asked as a sudden thought crossed his mind. If Wentian martial god managed to escape, Lin Ling would be at a disadvantage, and all the treasures would be wasted. The old woman fell into deep thought before her eyes glittered. There is a place, the Phoenix Emperor Spring. Yes. The Phoenix Emperor Spring? Yes. Lin Ling was suspicious. The old woman nodded. The Phoenix Emperor Spring is a very famous space controlled by the gods. That place can only be entered, even a martial god would need 10 days to get out. Moreover, the area inside is not big, about the same as Snow Wind City. Yes. Alright, that's the place. Yes. Lin Ling's eyes glittered. The place was not big, and it was perfect for him, Lin Ling. However, the old woman shook her head, but this is the place of the gods, ordinary people can't enter. Yes. Senior, I've completed 2 missions. One was to deliver a letter, the other was to suppress the seal of the dragon tribe. I'd like to use one of the rewards to open the Phoenix Emperor Spring, is that okay? Yes. However, Lin Ling already had a plan. That's fine, but I'll have to ask Master Lei Gong. Yes. The reward for the second mission is to ask Master Lei Gong to help me protect my friends in Snowy City. Yes. Alright. Yes. Currently, the people of Qingzhou were protected, but not the people of Snowy City. If Lin Ling successfully killed Wentian martial god, Luli Empress would definitely come. Based on Lin Ling's understanding of her, she would attack Yu Yu and the others. This woman was similar to Longyang, who would do anything to achieve her goals. Moreover, Lin Ling actually didn't have much resentment towards Dragon Mother, but towards Tian Liuli, Lin Ling hated her to the bone. He knew that although Longyang looked emotionless, she had feelings. However, Tian Liuli was not only emotionless, she was also unrighteous. Take the death of martial god Qilin as an example. Tian Liuli did not care about it at all. She cared more about her own strength and continued to cultivate. If such a thing happened to Lin Ling, he would have raised his sword and cut down his enemy long ago. Even if he had to flee to the ends of the earth, he would still kill his enemy. Then I'll inform Master Lei Gong immediately. Yes. Then, the old woman knew that there was no time to lose and quickly left. Don't disturb Lin Ling, let him rest for a few days. Yes. Before she left, she said to young Master Yao and the others. Young Master Yao and the others understood and drank for a while more before leaving. They obviously knew that Longyang was a strong opponent. She was ranked 252nd on the divine ranking, and the first newcomer king. Especially the newcomer king, she was the scariest. It meant that she could reach the highest ranking in the shortest amount of time. Longyang was the only one in the current era who could do that. At night, Lin Ling chatted with Yu Yu and the others. When night fell, Lin Ling left and entered another room, sitting down with his legs crossed. He was not cultivating at this moment. He knew that it would not be effective no matter how much he cultivated in the past few days. Therefore, his goal was still to calm his heart. Everything was to make himself more focused in the battle. Focus was also important. When facing an expert like martial god Wen Tian, if he was not focused enough, he might be killed in a moment of carelessness. I have many treasures, but most of them are only 5th grade innate realm. They can't kill martial god Wen Tian, they can only distract him. However, the great world-destroying banner and the curse of the gods are the most deadly, and they are my strongest attacks. There were 3 and 5 treasures respectively. If there was only one, Lin Ling was not confident that he could kill martial god Wen Tian. However, there were many of them, so anything was possible. Besides that, Lin Ling had also prepared many rare treasures, such as the undying fruit. Martial god Wen Tian was much stronger than martial god Qilin. If Lin Ling could not succeed, then Lin Ling would definitely die. Therefore, this was a fight with his back to the river. Phew! Lin Ling took a deep breath and suppressed his excitement and impulse. His heart was as calm as still water once more. This was the reason why he had to calm his heart. Chapter 3969. 3 days later, the battle began. As for the battle with Longyang, Lin Ling was not worried. His current strength had been suppressed, so he could not use many of his moves. However, once the seal was lifted, many of his moves would be boosted. For example, the Bodhi Testimony Divine Skill. Another example was the Calamity-Destroying Sun Bao. Due to the increase in strength, the tyrannical Singing Sword might be able to activate a bit of divine power. The next day, the old woman brought news that Lin Ling's request had been accepted by Lei Gong. The Phoenix Emperor Spring had been opened for Lin Ling. Furthermore, Lin Ling had also sent someone to inform Longyang, and she had also agreed. Especially after learning about the special characteristics of the Phoenix Emperor Spring, the people of the new heavenly court mocked Lin Ling, calling him an idiot. Because he could only enter and not exit. This meant that if Lin Ling lost, he would not be able to escape. The news snowballed and spread throughout the entire final world. The 36 academies were in an uproar. Naturally, many people had heard of Lin Ling. This fellow had displayed his brilliance during the exchange at Skysplit Tower and E-Garden. Therefore, many people knew that Lin Ling was the new king and was incomparably dazzling. However, in these 3 years, Longyang had become even more dazzling. She was not like Lin Ling, who had taken one step at a time. Instead, she had shaken the 36 academies the moment she appeared, sweeping through the top 300 experts on the divine stairway. Such a girl was also known as the 100th rare genius in the history of the 36 academies. This meant that among the countless geniuses of the 36 academies, in the endless history, there were only 99 people who were more monstrous than Longyang. Do not underestimate these 99 people, because this was based on the number of geniuses in the endless history. This era could be traced back to when the academies were first established. If not millions of years ago, then at least tens of millions of years ago. 3 days later, the Phoenix Emperor Mountain was packed with people. In the end, experts from all over the world gathered here. Their voices were like a boiling cauldron. They all wanted to see the most stunning battle of this era. On the other hand, it wasn't just the various city governors that made an appearance here, there were even the various deans and numerous martial gods. As for the experts of the Divine Three Halls, there was no need to mention them. All of them had come for the sake of broadening their horizons. If the Phoenix Emperor Mountain could collect the entrance fee, just the entrance fee alone would be enough to make a fortune. Wind Snow Academy's Lin Ling fought against Wentian martial god's disciple, Longyang. And now, because of Wentian martial god, Longyang also entered the third-ranked Wu Wei Academy among the 36 academies. How can Lin Ling be a match for Longyang? He's simply overestimating himself. Don't underestimate Lin Ling. I heard from my brother that Lin Ling also stirred up a bloody storm in the Kaiyuan River. Although I don't think he can win against Longyang, Lin Ling is not simple. Bah, only Lin Ling is strong in the Kaiyuan River. Why don't you go and ask those who have been to One World Mountain? Who doesn't know how terrifying Longyang is in One World Mountain? In short, both of them are Tianhao experts who have returned from experience. Early in the morning, the passers-by chatted while walking. They were extremely excited. However, among the excited passers-by, there was a man wearing a large cloak. He was accompanied by a bodyguard and a fist-sized evil spirit. They were also walking along the main road. In the distance, there was a towering mountain that looked majestic and sacred from afar. According to legends, this mountain range was the mountain range where the phoenix became an emperor. In the ancient times, a phoenix became a god here and soared to the divine world in one step. However, when the phoenix soared to the divine world, a phoenix cried and formed a spring. This was because in the ancient times, the phoenix was the male and the phoenix was the female. Now that the male and female were separated, they would be alone for thousands of years. Therefore, in the sky above the Phoenix Emperor Mountain, there was also the Phoenix Emperor Spring. According to legends, the ancient spring water was left behind by the tears of the phoenix. A cool breeze blew over, causing the cloaked man to pause his steps. However, his gaze was still fixed on the ancient mountain in the distance. There, he saw a winding staircase that led to the top of the mountain. At this moment, there were many people on the staircase who were excitedly walking to the top of the mountain. Shaking his head, the cloaked man continued walking. He was Lin Ling. Last night, he had bid farewell to everyone and then walked over in the middle of the night. Walking alone seemed lonely, but it also made him more focused. Yu and the others did not stop him. They had already arrived at the Phoenix Emperor Mountain with the dean and waited for Lin Ling's arrival. However, at this moment, the sound of wild horses galloping came from behind. When they looked carefully, they saw a huge crocodile carrying a large number of people, majestically heading towards the Phoenix Emperor Mountain. Along the way, those who were not strong enough were all flipped over. Boom! The crocodile was also very fast. It twisted its body and ran amok. However, in the next moment, when it collided with the back of a tall bodyguard, the huge crocodile was flipped over. When it landed on the ground, it immediately flipped over and its four limbs swayed continuously. It looked very comical. This also caused everyone to be astonished. That tall fellow was too powerful. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. However, the people on the crocodile were not weak. When the crocodile flipped over, they had already jumped up and glared angrily at the two people in front of them. Those two people were still moving forward as if they did not know what was happening behind them. This undoubtedly infuriated those people. Who the fuck is your mother? Are you blind? Someone immediately scolded them. However, those two people continued to move forward. This guy. At this moment, the surrounding people were even more shocked. This was because they had never seen such strange people. They were almost hit by the crocodile, but they still continued to move forward. They did not even scold the other party. Could it be that they were idiots? Motherfucker, stop and say something to me. Another person spoke. However, it was still useless. You're forcing me to attack. Why do you have to force me to attack? Don't you know that when I attack, the world will collapse and the sun and moon will dim? Someone could not hold it in anymore. He used the speed of 800 worlds and charged towards the two people in front of him. Boom! However, when his punch landed on the tall bodyguard, not only was the bodyguard fine, but he also continued to move forward. On the other hand, that person gasped and held his arm as he shouted, my arm, it's broken. You're too despicable. How dare you sneak attack me? Seeing this, everyone was speechless. Speaking of which, wasn't that guy the one who attacked first? The other party did not even resist and took the punch head-on. In the end, he was fine, but the guy who attacked him had his arm broken. That was too embarrassing. Stop him. The others knew that those two people were not simple. However, they could not take it lying down. They immediately chased after the two people in front of them and blocked their path. Who are you? They also spoke up one after another because they also wanted to know to what extent this person who had ignored them could ignore them. Bang! However, their disregard had reached a terrifying limit. That was because those two people did not seem to see the group of people and continued to move forward. They did not seem to be moving fast, but when they collided with one of them, they sent him flying 1,000 miles away. Chapter 3970. At the peak of the mountain. This freak. Seeing this, the people blocking the way were scared out of their wits. What kind of freak was this? However, one person with sharp eyes suddenly saw a large number of people flying across the sky towards the Phoenix Emperor Mountain. Those who could fly in the sky were extremely powerful, because only the weak could walk. This was also the unwritten rule of the Phoenix Emperor Mountain. Senior Canon God, it's me. That person hurriedly yelled. In the sky, those people frowned. Then, a man led a large number of experts and jumped towards the ground. You're finished. Do you know who he is? He's Canon God, ranked 300th on the God ranking. He's my senior. His cannons can even hit the God ranking. Seeing the arrival of those experts, the group of people from before was extremely excited. The passers-by's face changed. Canon God. They had obviously heard of this expert. It was said that his talent was giant cannon. His punch was like a cannon that could destroy the heavens. It was extremely powerful. What's going on? When Canon God arrived, he immediately shouted coldly. Although he was young, he had the dignity of a leader. It's like this. Those people hurriedly started to flatter him. Then, they recounted what had happened earlier. They knew that Canon God had gone to the ancient dragon wasteland and led a large group of experts to do whatever they wanted. They were extremely powerful. And it was said that Canon God was one of the leaders. Hence, he more or less had the aura of a leader. Regarding this, other than respect, they were also envious. This was because they had all heard that after the great battle of the ancient dragon wasteland, there were not many alliances left. There were only 5, and these 5 alliances were collectively referred to as the Overlords. The Overlords were left behind after being eliminated. Especially the leader of the Overlords. He controlled countless experts and could command hundreds of people. Just thinking about it made them excited. If they could join those alliances, that would be great. Oh. At this moment, Canon God frowned and walked forward, blocking the two people. Just as he was about to say something, his gaze landed on the tall bodyguard. Although the bodyguard was wearing a large cloak, his expression was all too familiar. Not good. Canon God's heart instantly exploded. He remembered the handsome young man in the salt pan and the swamp. That young man seemed to have a bodyguard following behind him. Bang! He knelt on one knee and bowed with both hands. Greetings, leader. A cold shout could be heard. The experts who came with Canon God's overlords were all shocked. Bang 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 bang. On the road, all the experts knelt down on one knee and shouted in unison. Greetings, leader. This made the road was silent. Although he did not know why the great leader did not fly through the sky and instead chose the most ordinary path to climb Phoenix Spring Mountain on foot, he did not want to offend the great leader. Therefore, he had to chase away all these pieces of trash. Even if the leader wanted to go to the netherworld. Woo woo woo. A jade token appeared in Canon God's hand. He inserted his spiritual chi and a strange sound could be heard. However, all the people who had this jade token were shocked. In the sky above, a large number of experts had arrived. There were even experts leaping down from the Phoenix Emperor Mountain. This was also a meeting between thousands of soldiers and thousands of horses. These people were also from the God Slayer Alliance. Although the God Slayer Alliance in the ancient Dragon Wasteland had been disbanded, in these people's hearts, they were still part of the Alliance. Scram! On the road to the Phoenix Emperor Mountain, everyone had been driven away in a domineering manner. On that boundless road, only 2 people were moving forward. They looked lonely, but they were like the overlords of the world, leaving a deep impression on everyone. God Slayer Alliance, leader. On both sides of the road, the passers-by were pale as they looked at the legendary figure in disbelief. Because they knew that the seemingly thin figure was actually able to summon martial god realm experts. This made people very suspicious. Where did that not-so-sturdy figure get such enormous strength from? However, Lin Ling did not know anything about the God Slayer Alliance. He did not even know that the road had been opened. His gaze was fixed on the mountain peak. His mind was focused on the treasures. Because of this focus and calmness, he felt a rumbling sound coming from his dantian. The whirlpool formed by the demigod divine core was bigger than before. He even felt that the divine dragon battle armor on his body had unknowingly reached 20,000 boundary force. 20,000 boundary force. To carry such heavy armor while moving forward, how much strength would one need to possess? It was possible that it exceeded 20,000 boundary force by 2 times. The stairs finally appeared in front of him. Lin Ling paused and adjusted his cloak and the sword on his back. He then said to the giant ghost, "Let's begin." The beginning he spoke of was naturally the God Slayer Alliance. The giant ghost revealed a ferocious smile as it followed Lin Ling and jumped down the stairs. The stairs were long but there was not a single person. As Lin Ling walked down the stairs, it was as if he had walked through a lifetime. From Li Xiaoyao's life to Lin Ling's life, he finally found the familiar faces from his previous life. As for the end of the stairs, it was a smooth ground as if it had been cut open by a sword. However, there were 2 huge phoenix footprints on the ground. Countless experts gathered in the surroundings, motionless and silent, as if they were stone statues. On the entire mountain peak, only a few trees were swaying and making rustling sounds. Looking at the experts at the scene. There were experts from the new heavenly court, Duan family, Miao Shen's true disciple, and the principal of the 36th college. There were also experts from East City, Sky Sword City, Wind Snow Academy, and so on. Of course, if this force was not terrifying, then looking back, it was the Miao Prefecture's God Emperor, one of the 10 great God Emperors of the 9 prefectures. Moreover, there was more than one such God Emperor. There was also the unrestrained sword martial god and the Duan lineage martial god. Of course, there was also today's main character, martial god Wen Tian. Some martial gods closed their eyes and went into a rare silence. Moreover, they restrained their aura, not wanting to be too shocking. After all, today's main character was not them. But even then, the experts present at the scene sensed strands of faint pressure, and this allowed them to realize exactly how great the commotion caused by the arrival of so many experts in this battle was. They could not help but look forward. There was an ancient pine tree. Under the pine tree, a woman wearing a pink robe waved her hand and was playing with a squirrel jumping back and forth in the pine tree. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.